Chapter 547. Lin Xian and the dark red dragon felt a great threat at that moment. The reason was that not long ago, the dark red divine dragon had opened a sealed door. In the end, troops of divine soldiers wearing ancient battle armor and holding sharp bronze spears walked out from inside. They were like ancient warriors striding over. These ancient divine soldiers were covered in ancient battle armor, revealing only a pair of cold eyes. They were like lifeless machines, and their movements were uniform. Moreover, they exuded a powerful aura that seemed to be able to shatter everything when gathered together. Lin Xian was shocked. He quickly used the dragon sword soul to eliminate the pressure. Then his expression became extremely ugly. The aura of these ancient divine soldiers was very strong. It was far from what a spirit-detecting realm martial artist could resist. If he didn't have the dragon sword soul, he would have been crushed by this aura. On the other side, the dark red dragon swallowed its saliva. As a member of the ancient divine dragon race, although it had lost its dragon essence and cultivation, its bloodline was still there. Naturally, it wouldn't be afraid of this aura. However, its expression wasn't very good either. It stared at the divine soldiers and screamed, "Mother Dragon, a group of Yin soldiers died." Yin soldiers? Lin Xian frowned. What are Yin soldiers? The dark red dragon retreated and quickly said, "These Yin soldiers were all powerful martial artists when they were alive. After they died, they were smelted with a special method to become machines that only know how to kill. Moreover, these people carried great resentment when they were alive, so they have an evil and cold aura on them now. They are called Yin soldiers." Lin Xian understood and then asked, "What are the strength of these Yin soldiers?" It's hard to say. According to their cultivation when they were alive, their combat power after they died is also different. However, the combat power of these Yin soldiers is average. They haven't reached the venerable realm. Hearing that, Lin Xian's mouth twitched. They haven't reached the venerable realm? Average combat power? Even he was afraid of the aura of these people. To his surprise, the dark red dragon continued. Indeed, a single Yin soldier hasn't reached the venerable realm. However, if they join forces, they can definitely kill a venerable realm martial artist. Fuck. Lin Xian's forehead darkened. This was such an important piece of information, and this guy was only saying it now. Didn't he know that he would die if he said it later? Kid, don't move. Using the great dragon sword soul should be able to intimidate this group of Yin soldiers. The dark red divine dragon rolled its eyes and said. Hearing this, Lin Xian used the great dragon sword soul, and a layer of hazy radiance appeared around his body, condensing into the shape of a true dragon. A supreme aura spread out, as if it was going to tear the 9 heavens apart. Sure enough, blue flames danced in the eye sockets of the Yin soldiers. Wielding huge bronze spears, they circled around Lin Xian and continued forward. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief, and the dark red divine dragon also exclaimed in a low voice, "You scared this emperor to death." Lin Xian glared at him fiercely. "You still dare to say that? It's all your fault. Otherwise, we wouldn't have encountered such a situation." The dark red divine dragon knew that he was in the wrong, but he still muttered in a low voice, "Damn it, I didn't know there were Yin soldiers here." Then he said, "I'm afraid this lost shrine is not as beautiful as we thought. It's very dangerous here, and if we're not careful, we'll fall into an extremely dangerous situation. Let's wait here." Lin Xian also nodded. If there were Yin soldiers nearby, they should be able to intimidate the unknown experts. Behind them, the gray and white elders and the youth in beastly clothes were pacing back and forth in front of a dilapidated stone house. This was a stone house, and there were cracks on the stone door in front, as if it would split open at any time. Traces of golden flames were spitting out from the cracks. It kept flashing, and every once in a while, it would spit out some. The gray and white elders were originally hurrying on their way, and they happened to see this light, so they were attracted to it. Seeing this light, the gray and white elders were overjoyed. They were sure that there must be a mysterious treasure behind this dilapidated stone wall. Thinking of this, the two of them were ecstatic. The white-haired old man punched out, and a huge fist image smashed into the wall like a mountain. The space shook, and the air exploded. The terrifying energy fiercely smashed into the wall, causing it to shake. However, the wall that seemed to be dilapidated and covered in cracks merely shook, and then it stood there just like before. What? Seeing this, the gray and white elders frowned, and the youth in beastly clothes' eyelids twitched. He gulped with great difficulty, and then he looked at the dilapidated stone wall in shock. After all, his two ancestors had surpassed the Exalt realm, and they were even a step away from the King realm. Such figures could even instantly kill a spirit-detecting realm cultivator with a single glance. However, that violent punch didn't have the slightest bit of effect. This was simply too inconceivable. The white-haired old man's face was gloomy. His punch had actually failed to blast open a dilapidated wall, which made him feel rather embarrassed. In the end, he snorted coldly and punched out with his right fist again. This time, rays of divine light shot out from his fist. It was extremely dazzling, and terrifying energy surged out in all directions, as if it could crush the heavens and the earth. The punch smashed onto the stone bridge, and it instantly caused a heaven-shaking sound to resound. At the side, the youth in beastly clothes felt his eardrums tremble, and his aura roiled. He felt as if his body was about to split apart. His face was pale, and he retreated in terror. After that, he used his spirit energy to seal his hearing, and only then did he heave a sigh of relief. How terrifying! Merely the aftershock of the energy had almost heavily injured him. However, what shocked him even more was that the dilapidated wall was actually still intact. It looked the same as before, and there wasn't even a single crack. How is this possible? The youth in beastly clothes was shocked, and he almost bit off his tongue. It wasn't just him, the gray and white elders were shocked as well. Their strength could be said to be extremely formidable, but they were actually unable to break open a wall. It was too strange. As expected of the lost shrine, it's truly miraculous. I didn't expect a dilapidated wall to be so tough. The white-haired old man's expression was very unsightly, and he snorted coldly. The gray-haired old man also frowned. Looking at this wall, there should be a special restriction. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to withstand our strength. Let's look around. There should be a special formation mechanism on it. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for us to open it with just brute force. Time passed little by little, and in the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. During this period, Lin Xian tried to walk out. However, as soon as he walked through a passage, he sensed 2 extremely powerful auras ahead of him. Subsequently, he was shocked and quietly retreated. There was no need to think about it. There were definitely 2 extremely powerful figures ahead, and they had blocked the path. He could only wait here patiently. During these 2 days, the gray and white elders kept searching, and finally found a trace of a way to break open the wall. The 2 joined hands, and relying on their half-step king cultivation base and vision, they finally gradually broke open the dilapidated wall. Chapter 548. The dilapidated stone door cracked open, revealing the scene inside. However, to the disappointment of the 2 elders, it was not filled with countless treasures as they had imagined. It was very simple inside. There was only a white skeleton. The dazzling golden light came from the white skeleton. If one looked closely, they would find that the white skeleton was covered with a layer of faint golden lines. Seeing that there were no treasures, the young man in the beast's coat was disappointed, while the 2 elders stared at the skeleton that was glowing with golden light. "Old man, do you feel anything?" the gray-haired elder asked. "Yes, although it's faint, it's indeed the pressure from the bloodline." The white-haired elder looked dignified. Then, the 2 of them looked at the white skeleton carefully. Their tribe guarded the lost place. They had an extraordinary background, and the bloodline power in their bodies was powerful. But now a pile of white bones actually made their hearts palpitate. This situation was too strange. Unless the white bones were also very powerful bloodline warriors when they were alive, and their bloodline power was stronger than theirs. However, they were not happy because there was not much value in walking the bones. The 2 of them looked around and checked the situation in the stone cave. Soon, they found a pool of blood in the corner. The blood was black and almost solidified. If one did not pay attention, they would not have noticed it. The 2 elders walked forward. However, just as they walked to the black blood, the pool of blood suddenly glowed red and filled the entire space. A low roar was heard. The blood rolled in the void and turned into a ferocious blood beast, roaring at the sky. A terrifying and majestic pressure rolled over like angry waves and blasted toward the two elders. "Oh no! Bastard, you're courting death." The two elders were furious. Then, they attacked the void with a terrifying silent void. The two forces collided, causing the entire space to shake. The blood beast roared ferociously, and its body glowed brightly. The surrounding walls reflected a scarlet light, as if they were soaked in endless blood, emitting an endless murderous aura. The entire space was filled with the thick smell of blood. Not only that, when the light shone on the white bones, there was a change. The scarlet light gathered in the eye sockets of the white bones, forming two red lights. Then, the white bones trembled slightly, as if they were about to come back to life. Crack, crack. White bones trembled, then stood up. It held a huge bone knife in its hand, and the aura on its body made people's hair stand on end. The beast-robed young man's face turned pale. He kept retreating, trying to escape. Even Old Man Hui and Old Man Bai were frowning, their faces dark. The lost temple was indeed a forbidden place. Just by opening a wall, such a strange and terrifying thing had happened. The aura emitted by the blood fiend in the air, and Bai Gu behind him was not any weaker than the two of them. This place was too strange, giving the two of them a bad feeling. The two elders did not want to take the risk. They looked at each other and quickly retreated. This action immediately angered the blood fiend in the air. It let out a furious roar and charged toward the two of them with a terrifying aura. The white bone transformed into a ray of white light and swiftly charged towards the two old men. The enormous bone blade in its hand was accompanied by an endless aura as it slashed down with a loud bang. Boom! Bang bang! The gray and white elders fought as they retreated, striking out terrifying palm and fist shadows. Suddenly, the sound of explosions came from the dark passage. Go! In the next moment, the gray and white elders grabbed the beast-robed young man and rushed into the sky. They transformed into a ray of light and ran deeper. The ferocious blood fiend and white bones quickly chased after them. Lin Xian paced back and forth near the group of Yin soldiers. He was cultivating while waiting. At this moment, he suddenly opened his eyes and stood up. This was because he sensed four extremely powerful forces rushing towards him at high speed. The dark red dragon beside him jumped up in shock and kept moving. Damn it, weren't there only two of them? Why are there four auras now? Kid, who did you offend? Li Xian's face darkened. He snorted coldly. What does it have to do with me? Maybe they're here to suppress you. Hearing this, the dark red dragon stopped talking. It shrunk its neck and said worriedly, "Why don't we go further in? I'm afraid these Yin soldiers might be able to stop the four of them." Go further in? Lin Xian hesitated. The things that appeared in this place were already too much for him to resist. If he did not have the great dragon sword soul, he would not be able to avoid these Yin soldiers. He did not know what dangers there would be if he went further in. If the great dragon sword soul did not work, he would not be able to escape at all. Therefore, he subconsciously did not want to go further. In the next moment, four rays of light appeared in front of the passage. The gray and white elders frowned and exclaimed in a low voice. They did not expect someone to arrive earlier than them. The beast-robed young man exclaimed in surprise, "It's you! Ancestors, he's the person I was talking about." Whoosh! The gray and white elders landed in the passage. They were blocked by a group of Yin soldiers and could not move forward at all. The two of them looked at the Yin soldiers in front of them cautiously, then stared at Lin Xian. According to the beast-robed young man, Lin Xian was the last person to come into contact with the great dragon sword soul and the peerless dragon. In other words, he knew the whereabouts of the peerless beast and the great dragon sword soul. Boy, let me ask you, where are the great dragon sword soul and the peerless dragon? The white-haired old man shouted coldly. Hearing this, the dark red dragon shrunk its neck and laid on Lin Xian's body, watching him nervously. Now that he had lost his dragon essence and cultivation, if he was recognized, he would not be able to escape. At that time, he might be captured and used for alchemy. Boy, you can't leave me in the lurch, the dark red dragon said in a low voice. Lin Xian's expression turned cold. The wine lord said that this dragon knew a lot and should be able to help him, so he did not want to hand it over for the time being. Moreover, the beast-robed young man wanted to kill him. Lin Xian did not have a good impression of such an enemy. Moreover, he was the one who obtained the great dragon sword soul. If the other party knew, he would not let it go. Thinking of this, Lin Xian asked in a low voice, "Do I know you?" Hearing this, the two old men were stunned and subconsciously said, "No, we don't." "Since you don't know me, why should I answer your question?" Lin Xian sneered. The two old men were stunned, then became angry. What kind of status did they have? An ant-like cultivator dared to speak to them in such a manner. He was simply courting death. The beast-robed young man snorted coldly. "Boy, you're courting death. Quickly kowtow and apologize, and tell us the whereabouts of the great dragon sword soul and the peerless beast. If you do, I might leave you an intact corpse. Otherwise, just wait to have your tendons pulled out and your soul refined." Lin Xian sneered and did not respond. If he was really forced, he would run into the depths of the palace. He did not believe that these people would dare to follow him, because the Yin soldiers in front of him were emitting killing intent, and that killing intent was directed at the two old men. Chapter 549. The white-haired old man stretched out his palm, forming a huge hand that covered the sky as he grabbed at Lin Xian. At this moment, the surrounding Yin soldiers all raised the divine spears in their hands and pointed them at the sky. Rays of light rushed into the sky and instantly pierced through the huge hand that covered the sky. Although those spears were rusty, the divine light they emitted was incomparably terrifying. Even the void couldn't withstand it. In an instant, it pierced through the white-haired old man's terrifying light palm. The white-haired old man's expression changed, and he suddenly retracted his right hand. The gray-haired old man and the beast-robed young man were even more shocked. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes, but he was ecstatic. The other party was a half-step king, and his strength was incomparably powerful. However, these Yin soldiers were too strange. The attack they formed could actually resist a half-step king. At this moment, another shocking roar came from behind, and then two terrifying auras quickly rushed over. Hearing this roar, Lin Xian frowned, and the expressions of the two elders changed drastically. Although they were half-step kings, they were usually arrogant. However, this lost shrine was too strange. Although the Yin soldiers in front of them were only at the spirit-detecting realm, they were actually able to contend against them together. Not only that, the blood fiends and white skeletons behind them were even more terrifying. They were almost on par with them. If these Yin soldiers joined forces, they might be suppressed. One had to know that at their level, they didn't have many years left to live. Their cultivation was used to extend their lifespan, so they couldn't afford to consume it. Therefore, the first thought of the two elders was not to fight, but to retreat. However, there were terrifying blood fiends and ferocious white skeletons behind them, so they couldn't leave. They could only break through from the Yin soldiers. Terrifying auras soared from the two of them, and they rushed forward like two sharp blades. Among them, the gray-haired old man opened the way and threw out countless fist shadows. Each of them was like a meteor, carrying a huge momentum. The white-haired old man grabbed at Lin Xian again. The two of them were as fast as lightning. In an instant, the terrifying fist shadows condensed into meteorites that smashed towards the Yin soldiers. The white-haired old man attacked even more strangely. A hazy palm of light instantly appeared above Lin Xian's head. In an instant, Lin Xian felt the surrounding air shatter, and an irresistible force appeared above him. This was the aura of a half-step king, and it was simply irresistible. Even a venerable would not be able to withstand it. Lin Xian spat out a large mouthful of blood from the impact. He pushed the great dragon sword soul with all his strength, transforming it into a sword light that pierced out diagonally. The great dragon sword soul was an offensive saint technique, and Lin Xian's speed was fast, so he escaped from the range of the light palm in an instant. In the next moment, countless Yin soldiers were enraged. Their bodies emitted a monstrous aura that connected together to form a black divine spear that pierced through the void. Behind him, the ferocious blood beast and the white-bone devil general were also moving quickly. A blood-colored waterfall hung in the void, and a sea of blood flowed down from above, drowning the entire sky. On the other side, the white bone demon general also raised his huge white bone blade and quickly slashed out. Every move was extremely stunning, causing the void to explode. He actually dodged it. The white-haired old man was astonished. As a half-step king, his aura was enough to kill a spirit-detecting realm martial artist. But he didn't expect the other party to survive. This kid is too strange. The white-haired man was shocked. Then he said to the beast-robed young man, "Go capture that kid." The beast-robed young man was currently being pincered by the Een soldiers, blood beasts, and white-bone devil general. He was already scared out of his wits. Now that he heard that the old ancestor wanted him to leave the battlefield and deal with the spirit-detecting realm martial artist, he was extremely happy. Without any hesitation, the beast-robed young man turned into a streak of light. Under the protection of the white-haired old man, he dodged the attacks of the Een soldiers and quickly rushed toward Lin Xian. "Haha, kid, obediently surrender." The beast-robed young man laughed loudly. Last time, if it weren't for the fact that he had to suppress the ferocious beasts, he would have already dealt with the other party. However, it wasn't too late now. The beast-robed young man sneered in his heart. With his skills, he could definitely subdue the other party in one move. At that time, he would use 100 methods to make the other party suffer a fate worse than death. Only then would he be able to vent the resentment in his heart. Thinking of this, he stretched out his finger. On his fingertip, a thick finger light spun rapidly, forming a dazzling light that quickly flew out. Lin Xian had just dodged the white-haired old man's attack, and hadn't even calmed down when he saw the sharp finger light flying toward him. Immediately, his face sank and killing intent rose in his heart. The other party was so arrogant. Did they really think he was easy to bully? Looking at the finger light, Lin Xian's heart was calm. He stomped his feet and quickly rushed to the side. Then he stabbed out with the wind shadow sword. The concepts of wind and thunder merged, forming a sword of wind and thunder that quickly slashed down. This sword of wind and thunder was very different from ordinary sword chi. On the tip of the sword, lightning formed a sawtooth that was incomparably sharp. On the outside, there were countless gusts of wind opening the path, increasing the speed and attack power to the extreme. Everywhere it passed, the air was split into two. In an instant, the sword of wind and thunder collided with the finger light and exploded, drowning the entire void. The sword chi that exploded formed an arc that enveloped the surroundings. It wrapped around the violent energy, and not a single bit of energy leaked out. In other words, Lin Xian's surroundings weren't affected by any of the energy. He had thought of all these in the instant that he attacked. With the great dragon sword spirit, his attacks had many variations. After the first slash, the second slash came down. This slash had merged with the great success sword essence. It was like a slanted moon that quickly slashed down. This sword light was very pure and very sharp. As the sword light swept past, the surrounding space seemed to be cut open, instantly creating cracks. The terrifying sword light tore open the energy cluster in the center, and then quickly rushed toward the beast-robed young man. These actions happened extremely quickly, almost at the same time as the beast-robed young man attacked. Lin Xian's 2 slashes had already landed. How is this possible? The beast-robed young man was shocked. It was unbelievable that his opponent could block his attack. One had to know that a few months ago, Lin Xian couldn't fight back at all when facing his attack. He couldn't even dodge it completely. Now not only did his opponent dodge his attack, but he even shattered his finger light. Not only that, but his opponent also had the ability to continue attacking. The terrifying sword light even made his hair stand on end. Shocking, too shocking. The beast-robed young man was almost stunned. It had to be known that after entering the spirit-detecting realm, it was very difficult to increase one's strength. Even he couldn't have an obvious breakthrough in 3 months. At most, his cultivation would have improved a little. His opponent was just a mid-stage spirit-detecting realm brat. But his strength had changed so much in 3 months. If this spread out, it would definitely shock a lot of people. This brat must have some secret on him. Perhaps it was related to the great dragon sword soul. The beast-robed young man's face was gloomy. He couldn't think of any treasures that could make a person undergo such a drastic change in 3 months. After thinking about it, Perhaps only the legendary dragon would be able to do so. Chapter 550. Now that the two patriarchs were under the control of a group of soldiers and blood fiends, he had to do it himself. If he was lucky, he might be able to secretly learn some secrets from Lin Xian. In the future, his cultivation might advance by leaps and bounds, and he might even reach the level of the patriarchs. Thinking of this, a hint of madness appeared in his eyes. This was definitely the best opportunity. This was the best opportunity for him to capture Lin Xian. Thinking of this, the young man in the beast-robed roared. His spiritual energy burned like a huge flame, and the surrounding void crackled. 5-finger radiances shot out and streaked across the air, forming a cage that enveloped Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly. His body moved erratically, and countless shadows appeared in the void. At the same time, he stabbed out with the wind shadow sword. Every time, a fine sword chi would pierce through the void and collide with the radiant finger radiances. At the same time, he clenched his left hand and formed a pitch-black sword that floated in the air. Sword of Nirvana. The pitch-black longsword emitted a deathly aura. It was like a sword from hell, and it made one's heart tremble. This sword was originally comprehended from the bloodline of the king. Now that it was displayed through the great dragon sword soul, its power was several times stronger than before. Not only that, but the desolate aura on the longsword had also become more condensed. Lin Xian waved his arm, and the pitch-black sword of Nirvana quickly slashed down toward the young man in the beast-robed clothes. Wherever the sword passed, a deathly aura was emitted. The entire space was filled with a chill, as if it was about to freeze. In an instant, the young man in the beast-robed clothes looked abnormally ugly. He felt that his bodhi's functions were rapidly disappearing, as if his life essence was about to be completely drained. What kind of sword technique is this? It's so strange. It can deprive me of my life essence. He was horrified and quickly retreated. Lin Xian held the wind shadow sword in his right hand and shattered the 5-finger radiances. At the same time, he held the sword of Nirvana in his left hand and quickly slashed at the young man in the beast-robed clothes. In an instant, the young man in the beast-robed clothes lost his previous arrogance. He jumped continuously and dodged quickly. He could feel that if he was hit by the pitch-black sword, he would lose more than half of his life essence. In this dangerous lost shrine, being seriously injured was equivalent to death. The beast-robed youth clenched his teeth. He was unwilling to give up. He couldn't understand how Lin Xian's strength had suddenly become so fierce. Not even in his dreams could he have imagined this situation. He was at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm, and was very powerful. But he didn't expect to be chased by a mid-stage spirit-detecting realm cultivator. Fortunately, there were no other martial artists here. Otherwise he would have the heart to die. Old Grey and Old Man Bai were in a fierce battle with a group of soldiers, blood fiends, and white-bone devil generals. When they saw the young man's condition, they were so angry that their beards curled up. At that moment, they thought their eyes were playing tricks on them. A brat at the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm was chasing after a martial artist at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. This was too fucking ridiculous. Spiritly, what are you doing? Hurry up and use your full strength to take him down. The gray-robed old man shouted angrily. The young man's body trembled when he heard this. He knew that he couldn't hold back any longer. Brat, I didn't expect your strength to rise to such a level. You really surprised me. But let's stop here. I'll let you know what a real powerhouse is. You should be proud that you can die because of the power of your bloodline. After saying that, the young man stopped dodging. He stood in the void, his black hair fluttering behind him. His robe was flapping loudly. His aura was rising continuously. Streaks of blood-red lines filled his body. Behind him, the shadow of a fierce tiger condensed and roared in all directions. At the same time, black and white lines appeared on his cheeks and arms. Not only that, but his bones and limbs also became thicker. He was filled with a fierce aura. Anyone who has seen the power of my bloodline won't be able to survive. You won't be an exception. Spirit Li's voice was cold. After using the power of his bloodline, he became abnormally fierce and violent. The power of your bloodline? Lin Xian stopped and sneered. He had the great dragon sword soul, So he wasn't afraid of the power of his bloodline at all. Ignorant ant. It seems like you still don't understand the power of my bloodline. Seeing Lin Xian sneer the young man, Hun Li was annoyed. Then, he was filled with murderous intent, and his hands made a cross in the air. The air trembled and spiritual energy condensed. The shadow of a white tiger appeared, and let out an earth-shattering roar. It pounced on Lin Xian. This power was too strong. It had already surpassed the limit of the spirit-detecting realm. The young man sneered. This attack was enough to kill an ordinary martial artist, at the limit of the spirit-detecting realm. Lin Xian wouldn't be able to withstand it. The tiger roared and shook the air. In an instant, it was in front of Lin Xian. Lin Xian's expression was cold. He held the Nirvana sword and stabbed it forward quickly. The pitch-black Nirvana sword exuded the power of death. It was like a sword of death as it streaked across the air. In an instant, it collided with the shadow of the tiger. When the two collided, there was no dazzling light or earth-shattering explosion. When the pitch-black Nirvana sword came into contact with the shadow of the white tiger, it was as if ice and fire had fused. The huge white tiger phantom dimmed, as if its energy had been drained from its body, and it was dispirited. The Nirvana sword was still emitting a pitch-black cold light. The aura it emitted caused the shadow of the white tiger to quickly dissipate. Not only that, but the young man in the beastly robe behind also trembled. His eyes were filled with shock. In an instant, he felt an unusually cold aura enveloping him. It was as if it was sucking the energy from his body. In an instant, he felt a lot of his life essence and spiritual energy being drained. This method was too strange. He was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly cut off the connection with the shadow of the white tiger. Then, the cold aura of death gradually disappeared. What kind of sword is this? It's so terrifying. The young man in the beastly robe was terrified. He realized that he had underestimated Lin Xian. This is the power of your bloodline, Lin Xian sneered. In my eyes, it's worse than trash. Didn't you want to kill me? I want to see how you'll kill me. Lin Xian coldly snorted. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He had no enmity with the other party. They didn't even know each other. However, the other party had wanted to kill him more than once due to his greed. This made him angry. He couldn't forgive the other party. Lin Xian was like a god of death. He walked over with the Nirvana sword in hand. You're courting death. The young man in the beastly robe was furious. As the peerless genius of the clan, he had been the center of attention since he was young. No one had ever dared to look down on him like this. Now, a martial artist at the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm dared to treat him like this. Chapter 551. Lin Xian was expressionless as he waved the Nirvana sword in his hand. With a cold and deadly force, the white tiger shadows in the air lost their energy quickly. The beast-robed youth seemed to have gone mad as he activated his bloodline power and waved his fists wildly. The white tiger shadows lit up with a faint red glow, and an even more ferocious aura filled the air. The white tiger shadows that were originally dim were instantly replenished. They roared into the sky like the king of beasts, and their spiritual energy was extremely violent. They roared ferociously and pounced on Lin Xian. Although the Nirvana sword was powerful, it was still unable to completely destroy the white tiger shadows that were stacked with bloodline power. In an instant, Lin Xian was surrounded by countless white tiger shadows. Countless white tiger phantoms that were enhanced by the power of the bloodline pounced on Lin Xian from all directions. Their aura shook the heavens and the earth as they surrounded Lin Xian in an instant. Although the Nirvana sword in Lin Xian's hand was powerful, his opponent's bloodline power was too concentrated, and he could not eliminate it immediately. Die kid. Seeing that his opponent was surrounded by fist shadows, the beast-robed youth, Hun Li, laughed loudly. Lin Xian's expression was cold like the god of death. Countless sword auras surrounded the wind shadow sword, and formed a blood-red blade that wrapped around it like a blood-red longsword. A shocking murderous aura emanated from it, and swept across the heavens and the earth. Instantly, visible sword waves formed around it, and the murderous aura swept across the heavens and the earth. It was like a layer of blood-red ice crystals that made the air cold, and wanted to freeze people. The cold aura caused the surrounding temperature to drop. Streaks of murderous aura formed invisible sword scars that slashed in all directions. Hun Li's expression changed and he quickly retreated. The murderous aura was so shocking that it made his soul tremble. In the next moment his expression turned ugly. Lin Xian had exceeded his expectations once again. The blood-red longsword swept in all directions and destroyed the white tiger shadows that covered the heavens and the earth. It was like the winter wind that blew painfully on people's bodies. Sword of Slaughter. This move was also comprehended from the blood of a king. It was different from the Sword of Nirvana, as it was a sword of killing. It was cold and merciless, and it did not hold back. At this moment, Lin Xian was holding the black sword of Nirvana in his left hand, and the blood-red sword of slaughter in his right. He was like a demon from hell, stunning the beast-robed youth. The beast-robed young man's expression was extremely ugly. His opponent's aura made him extremely displeased. It had to be said that the other party was only at the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm. He could crush such a martial artist with a wave of his hand. However, the kid in front of him was abnormal in every way. If you have any last words, hurry up and leave them. Lin Xian's voice was cold, causing the surrounding air to crack. Arrogant. You're courting death. The beast-robed youth was furious. No one had ever dared to speak to him like this. He roared, and the figure of the white tiger behind him suddenly expanded. It was as if he had transformed into a huge tiger demon, tearing everything apart. Lin Xian's expression did not change as he moved his two swords. With boundless killing intent, blood-red sword qi surged out and clashed with the dark sword qi, forming a cross-shaped sword light that quickly shot forward. Wherever it passed, it formed a dazzling light and surged sword qi. The cross-shaped sword qi collided with the tiger demon's shadow. It only paused for a moment before cutting it open and quickly slashing towards the beast-robed youth. The beast-robed youth Hun Li was shocked. He hurriedly summoned the power of his bloodline and formed a tiger demon armor in front of him. It was as if it was made of black gold and silver, shining brightly. The red-black cross-shaped sword qi collided with the armor, creating the sound of metal clashing. Then, the sound became louder and louder, like a bell, resounding in all directions. The black gold and silver armor cracked and turned into pieces, exposing the beast-robed youth. At this moment, he finally felt fear in his heart, and it quickly spread throughout his body. The young man in front of him could already threaten his life. He quickly retreated, his body moving like lightning. However, Lin Xian was even faster, especially that sword of slaughter. It carried a monstrous killing intent that enveloped him. No! He screamed in horror. His originally handsome face was distorted beyond recognition. Ancestor, save me! The beast-robed youth quickly rushed towards the two elders. Poof! He had just escaped halfway when a blood-red sword pierced his back, piercing through his heart. He felt that his body had been hollowed out, and his consciousness was gradually blurring. He was so close to escaping to the ancestor. As for him, he was forever suspended in the air. There are some people that you can't mess with. Lin Xian's cold voice came from behind. Good. Hate. He struggled unwillingly. Boom. The sword of slaughter was activated and killed him. A young genius of a generation had fallen here in the end. If he hadn't been greedy and wanted to kill Lin Xian, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Thief, you're courting death. Not far away, the gray-haired elder was furious. The beast-robed youth was his direct descendant, and he was extremely talented and had a lot of room for growth. But now, he had been killed by a spirit-detecting realm brat, and it had been done in front of him. This was a slap to his face. With his identity as a half-step king, how could he tolerate this? With a cold snort, an invisible force surged out of the gray-haired elder's body, crushing the area and enveloping Lin Xian. In an instant, Lin Xian felt his body stiffen, as if it was about to split open. Not good, this is a martial soul attack. Kid, hurry up and use the great dragon sword soul to resist. The dark red dragon shouted from behind. After reaching the venerable realm, one would condense a martial soul. For example, a swordsman would condense a sword soul. This kind of power was very mysterious and powerful, far surpassing that of a spirit-detecting realm martial artist. This was also the reason why venerables could become true powerhouses. Not only could they control the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but their soul power would also increase greatly. Moreover, the combination of the two would form a martial soul. The invisible energy wave formed a 2-meter-long black and white demonic tiger that slammed down. This demonic tiger was different from the one formed by the beast-robed youth. The latter was purely condensed from spiritual energy and was very stiff. However, the one formed by the gray-haired elder was very spiritual, as if it was real. Moreover, its power was dozens of times stronger. This kind of attack could instantly kill a group of spirit-detecting realm martial artists. However, he encountered Lin Xian. Lin Xian had the great dragon sword soul, and no other martial soul could compare to it. Although the demonic tiger martial soul was powerful, it couldn't withstand a single blow from the great dragon sword soul. Roar! A furious roar came from Lin Xian's body. The sound waves gathered and instantly intimidated the demonic tiger martial soul. What? The gray-haired elder was shocked. At that moment his mind went blank. He was a half-step king, who had lived for nearly 700 years. He was definitely an extremely terrifying existence. For example, not to mention a spirit-detecting realm martial artist, even a venerable wouldn't be able to resist the attack just now. However, a mid-stage spirit-detecting realm kid actually blocked it. Moreover, his martial soul was repelled. This was too crazy. This kid must have a great treasure on him. The gray-haired elder quickly recovered from his shock. Chapter 552. In the next moment, his face became abnormally gloomy. The white-haired old man was also shocked. Then, he frowned as if he had thought of something. That roar just now, could it be the great dragon sword spirit? As soon as this thought appeared in their minds, their hearts began to beat wildly. Then the two old men looked at Lin Xian, their eyes shining with a shocking light. Although it was only their guess, and they had not seen the real great dragon sword spirit, there was probably nothing else in this world besides the great dragon sword spirit that could push back a half-step king martial spirit with a single roar. Otherwise, a mere spirit-detecting realm mid-stage martial artist would not be able to resist a half-step king martial spirit. Therefore, no matter what, they had to capture Lin Xian. However, just as they were in a daze, the malevolent blood fiend and white-bone devil general behind them suddenly erupted with terrifying attacks. Immediately, the two old men were flustered and hastily dealt with the attacks. The two were unable to break through for the time being, but their gazes towards Lin Xian were abnormally cold. Lin Xian frowned. He naturally knew what these two old men were planning, but he would not let them do as they wished. Lil Red, are there any more Yin soldiers nearby? Let's release them, Lin Xian said. Fuck, who is Lil Red? This emperor is a mighty divine dragon. The dark red dragon jumped up. Please call me Lord Divine Dragon in the future. Lil Red, we're talking business, Lin Xian said in a low voice. Hearing this, the dark red dragon rolled its eyes. In the end, it could only helplessly say, there are definitely more, but they're deeper in. Let's go and release them. Lin Xian led the dark red dragon and quickly rushed deeper into the palace. Now that he was being watched by the two old men, he could not leave at all. Only by killing these two old men would he have a chance to escape. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to escape. Right now, the only ones who could kill these two old fellows were probably these powerful Yin soldiers. He had the great dragon sword soul, so he wouldn't be attacked by the Yin soldiers. That was why he made this decision. Otherwise, he would not dare to provoke these strange things even if he was beaten to death. Sure enough, not long after, Lin Xian saw another sealed door. Without another word, he ordered the dark red dragon to go forward and break open the sealed door. Not long after, the sealed door began to creak. Then it opened, and another group of Yin soldiers walked out. These Yin soldiers had powerful auras. They were holding huge bronze swords, and their bodies were filled with a murderous aura. As soon as they came out, they stared at Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian immediately opened his great dragon sword soul and stood there, not daring to move. When the Yin soldiers sensed the aura of the great dragon sword soul, they ignored Lin Xian and began to walk forward. Not long after, they arrived at the place where Elder Grey and Elder White lived. Dozens of bronze sabers were raised, and streaks of dazzling saber radiance slashed into the void. Countless saber lights intertwined, causing the sky to collapse. The two elders were shocked. Their scalps went numb as they roared madly. The Een soldiers in front of them were already difficult for them to deal with. They did not expect so many more to come. This was undoubtedly asking for their lives. Kid, when we catch you later, we'll skin you alive and refine your soul. You'll never be reincarnated. The gray-robed elder's voice was like a ferocious ghost, filled with endless killing intent. Two old dogs. I'll kill you here today. Lin Xian's expression was cold as he stood in the distance and sneered. Wah! 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 The two elders screamed madly. The aura on their bodies surged and broke through everything. As peerless powerhouses, they were usually respected by tens of thousands of people. When had they ever been insulted like this? The two of them could not wait to tear Lin Xian apart. However, the Een soldiers in front of them gave them a headache. Kid, I'll catch you today even if I have to use some of my life essence. The gray-haired elder roared. Then, an inexplicable aura rose from his body and condensed into a tiger demon behind him. Its shape was so realistic that it seemed real. Martial soul. This is a martial soul that only venerables have. As soon as the martial soul appeared, it suppressed the Een soldiers and the ferocious blood fiends. The gray-haired elder also roared. A goshawk appeared behind him. It flapped its wings, as if it was going to tear the 9 heavens apart. Their martial souls were unusually powerful. Their auras completely suppressed the surroundings. Previously, they did not use their martial souls in order to preserve their life essence and live a little longer. Now they were completely enraged. They planned to capture Lin Xian at all costs. Next, the two of them attacked ruthlessly. The white tiger martial soul roared ferociously. Its claws tore the void in front of it apart. Terrifying energy was incomparably vast. On the other hand, the goshawk martial soul flapped its wings and formed illusory images of goshawks. It then pounced on Lin Xian. It seemed that they wanted to capture Lin Xian alive. The goshawk martial soul was very sharp. It broke through half of the Een soldier's defense and rushed toward Lin Xian. Lin Xian's face was gloomy. A trace of the great dragon sword soul rushed out of his body and forced the goshawk martial soul to retreat. Then, he quickly retreated away from the battlefield. Kid, these two are going crazy. I'm afraid these Een soldiers won't be able to resist them. The dark red dragon said worriedly. Half-step kings were extremely terrifying existences. Moreover, the two of them were even more terrifying when they joined forces. These old things are so difficult to deal with. Lin Xian's face was ugly. Now he could only survive by killing these two old things. Thinking of this, he moved again and ran toward the depths of the palace. This time, he decided to release enough Een soldiers to deal with these two old things. Lin Xian ran all the way. Finally, he saw another sealed door. Then, the dark red dragon quickly cracked it, and the sealed door suddenly opened. An indescribable pressure gushed out and filled the entire space. Lin Xian's body trembled, and he quickly retreated. This time he felt an indescribable pressure. It was as if an aura was about to tear him apart. Fortunately, he had the great dragon sword soul to protect him. Returning to the corner, Lin Xian frowned and looked at the sealed door. This time, it was not as expected. A group of Een soldiers walked out. There was only one figure in front. However, this figure's aura was stronger than countless Een soldiers. That figure emitted a cold aura and slowly walked out. At this time, Lin Xian saw the true face of that voice. It was a knight riding a war horse and holding a bronze spear. His figure was tall and straight, and he was extraordinarily mighty. However, what was shocking was that this knight did not have a head. A knight without a head. This situation was too strange. However, the dark red dragon at the side screamed. This was not a Een soldier, but a Een general. A Een general, from the name, should be more powerful than a Een soldier. He is indeed more powerful than a Een soldier, because he was a king when he was alive, said the dark red dragon. What a king! Lin Xian was shocked. A king was the true overlord of the world. He did not expect to be trained into a Een soldier. He had seen the terror of a half-step king. This king was definitely more powerful than a half-step king. The headless knight rode on his war horse and slowly turned around to face Lin Xian. Chapter 553. This scene was too strange. A headless person was actually able to see his existence. That being said, with the existence of the Yin soldiers, the other strange occurrences could be explained. Lin Xian's body tensed up, and he didn't dare to move. He activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul and formed a true dragon mark outside his body. After a while, the headless horseman turned around and disappeared in a ray of light. "Let's go!" Lin Xian bellowed and quickly followed after him with the dark red divine dragon. In front, after the two elders used their martial souls, they became more and more courageous. They gradually suppressed the Yin soldiers in front, and the Blood Fiend and White Bone Demon General behind them. It wouldn't be long before they broke through. At that time, they could go and capture Lin Xian. No matter how strange a martial artist at the middle stage of the spirit detecting realm was, it was impossible for him to escape from the two of them. However, before they could finish their daydream, a ray of light suddenly appeared from the depths of the palace. Behind it was a monstrous murderous aura. The air split open and endless air rolled on both sides, making rumbling sounds. An extremely cold figure stood in the void, facing Elder Grey and Elder White from a distance. In the next moment, the Yin soldiers below trembled. They quickly put away their weapons and stood to the side. Their actions were very uniform. They were all looking at the sky as if they were worshipping something. Behind them, the Blood Fiend and White Bone Demon General also fell silent. They retreated to the side and coldly watched. The two elders in the middle had dark faces, and their hearts sank. They looked at the cold figure in the air, and their faces became very ugly. Lin Xian stood at the end of the passage and looked at everything in front of him with a cold smile. When the two elders saw Lin Xian's expression, they were so angry that they stomped their feet and cursed in their hearts. This kid, who they thought of as an ant, had attracted powerful enemies for them time and time again. First it was a group of Yin soldiers, and now it was the strange headless horseman. What shocked them even more was that the headless horseman's aura was even stronger than theirs. It was the aura of a true king. A king was the true overlord of the world. Anyone who was called a king was a peerless expert who could shake the heavens and earth. Once such a figure appeared, it was absolutely capable of causing the heavens and the earth to lose its color. Although the two of them were powerful, they were still far from being comparable to true kings. For a moment, the two of them didn't have any thoughts of fighting. They looked at each other and made up their minds to immediately retreat and break out. At their level, they knew more and more how terrifying King Tears were. A casual strike from them could tear apart mountains and rivers and change the color of the sky. They were no match for him, so even if they wanted to capture Lin Xian, they didn't dare to joke around with their lives. In an instant, the two of them turned into streaks of light and sped away. At this moment, the cold figure in the void moved. The headless horseman held a bronze spear in his hand and rode a mighty warhorse, charging forward quickly. The spear in his hand danced and tore the void apart. The next moment, the terrifying bronze spear appeared in front of the gray-haired old man and pierced down quickly. What? Impossible! The gray-haired old man suddenly turned around, his eyes filled with shock. He roared angrily, and his aura surged wildly, shaking the void and causing countless cracks to appear. In the next moment, the white tiger martial soul appeared in front of him and roared ferociously, shaking the surroundings. The bronze spear was silent and didn't have any dazzling light. However, it was too powerful and instantly pierced through the white tiger martial soul. Then it stabbed forward in an even more violent manner. Seeing that his white tiger martial soul couldn't even resist for a moment, the gray-haired old man was scared out of his wits. He couldn't care about anything else, and activated the power of his bloodline with all his might. Like a stray dog, he quickly fled. He had to escape. Even a powerful move like the white tiger martial soul had been broken in an instant. This meant that the other party's strength had completely surpassed his. The two of them weren't on the same level at all. However, although the gray-haired old man was fast, the bronze spear was even faster. The headless horseman seemed to have locked onto the void. The spear was like a dragon, and instantly caught up with the gray-haired old man, and pierced through him. Then, the headless horseman held the spear in one hand and raised it in midair. The gray-haired old man's face was ferocious, and his eyes were filled with endless terror. He struggled with all his might, trying to get rid of the bronze spear. However, no matter how hard he struggled, there seemed to be an invisible force holding him in place. He couldn't escape no matter how hard he tried. Drip, drip. Countless drops of blood dripped from the tip of the spear. Every drop of blood caused the void to explode. This was the power of the bloodline power. However, such a terrifying bloodline power couldn't fight back against the headless horseman at all. This was the strength of a king. He could definitely suppress an area. The gray-haired old man was so scared that his whole body trembled. He didn't dare to stay any longer. He abandoned the gray-haired old man and ran outside. However, in the next moment, the green shadow in the void swayed, and the spear struck out again. In an instant, the gray-haired old man let out a miserable scream. The void shattered and countless black holes flickered. The entire space was annihilated. Lin Xian stood at the end of the passage and tried his best to look over. Then he was shocked. This was because he saw the headless horseman standing in the void with the bronze spear in his hand raised high. On the spear, the gray-haired old man and the white old man were pierced and hung in the sky. Countless drops of blood splattered and dyed the sky red. This scene was too shocking. A shabby spear had nailed two half-step kings in the void. The gray-haired old man and the white old man were extremely powerful. A drop of their blood could cause the void to explode. However, such powerful warriors were no match for the headless horseman. They couldn't even block a single spear. Is this the strength of a king? Lin Xian clenched his fists. He was shocked. This was a true powerhouse. A casual attack had the power to tear the world apart. He yearned for this kind of power. Lin Xian knew that with the great dragon sword soul, he would be able to reach this level one day. However, he didn't want to wait too long. Therefore, he could only work hard to cultivate and strive to reach the king level as soon as possible. At that time, he could return to the Tiannan region and save the Sword Pool Mansion. At that time, he wouldn't be afraid of the Black Dragon sect's leader. He could even destroy the entire Black Dragon sect with a raise of his hand. Thinking of this, Lin Xian clenched his fists. He knew that there was still a long way to go. The headless horseman stared at the gray-haired old man and the white old man in the void. Then, he shook his spear and threw the gray-haired old man to the ground. The blood beast in the distance roared and quickly rushed over. It turned into a cloud of blood mist and enveloped the gray-haired old man and the white old man. The gray-haired old man and the white old man were terrified and struggled with all their might. However, the spear just now had seriously injured them. Moreover, there was an even more inexplicable force that was destroying their vitality. Chapter 554. Not long after, the two of them let out miserable cries before turning into a pile of bones. A half-step king died in the Lost God Palace just like that. Even a half-step king couldn't escape. This lost shrine was too strange. Lin Xian didn't dare to stay any longer. He planned to leave this place quickly. Fortunately, he still had the great dragon sword soul. So the headless horseman and the group of ghost soldiers chose to ignore him, as if they couldn't see him. Lin Xian turned into a beam of sword light and sped towards the exit. It had been a month since Lin Xian left the lost shrine. In this month, he had been consolidating his cultivation and comprehending the great dragon sword soul. However, in these few days the lost place had changed again. Traces of spatial cracks appeared in the sky. It was a ghastly sight, and it was a shocking sight. Lin Xian looked at the sky and narrowed his eyes. He knew that the time in the lost place was up, and all the outsiders were about to be teleported out. The disciples of other sects were fine, as they were all received by their sections. However, Lin Xian was different. He was forced to come here from the Tiannan region. He didn't know if he would return to the ancient Azure Dragon City in the Tiannan region, or be teleported to the Sky Martial region. Thinking of this, he frowned. After the Black Dragon Hierarch failed to fight for the Great Dragon Sword Soul, there would definitely be a bloodbath in the Tiannan region. If he went back at this time, it would definitely be the worst-case scenario. However, if the news spread to the Sky Martial region, and he was blocked by the 3 6-star sects. The result would probably be even more terrifying than going to the Tiannan region. Especially the Divine Bird Palace. They would definitely not let him go. The two sides had already reached a state of irreconcilable conflict, and there was no way to resolve it. More importantly, Lin Xian still had the great dragon sword soul. If the old monsters of the 3 sects found out, they would definitely go all out. Facing those old monsters who had lived for hundreds or thousands of years, Lin Xian had no confidence at all. Then he began to ask the dark red dragon for a solution. Don't worry, kid. Your whereabouts are not in the 3 sects' control. So even if you are teleported out, you won't fall in front of them. The dark red dragon was very calm. Hearing this, Lin Xian was relieved. Now that the dark red dragon god was with him, it would not trick him. Otherwise, the other party would also be captured to be refined into pills. More and more warriors were being teleported out of the lost lands. Soon news of Lin Xian spread. The martial artists of the 3 major forces waiting outside were all shocked. In particular, the cultivators of the Divine Bird Palace were trembling with anger. More than half of the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace had fallen inside. And the leading monster brother and sister had fallen inside. That was a genius martial artist, and someone who had activated his bloodline. This was undoubtedly a huge loss to them. This was definitely a blatant slap in the face. Apart from the Divine Bird Palace, the other 2 forces did not suffer many casualties. It was obvious that the kid was specifically targeting the Divine Bird Palace. Next, the cultivators of Divine Bird Palace grasped Lin Xian's appearance and aura. Then, everyone exuded a murderous aura. The one in the middle was a middle-aged man. He was extraordinarily mighty and had a powerful aura. Every move he made could cause the weather to change. Obviously, this was a venerable and one of the leaders of the Divine Bird Palace. This kid must be caught. The middle-aged man's voice was cold, like 1,000-year-old ice, drifting in all directions. He had already recognized Lin Xian. Not only did he kill the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace, but he also killed the successor of the Divine Bird Palace. They would not let such a person go. The other 2 forces were also shocked. After hearing about Lin Xian's deeds, they felt more and more that this young man was amazing. However, they were mostly gloating. Although they belonged to the same 3 camps, there was also a lot of competition between them. Now that the Divine Bird Palace had suffered heavy losses, it was undoubtedly great news for the other 2 forces. Where is that kid now? A purple-robed elder next to him asked. He was also a venerable. This time, the Divine Bird Palace sent a total of 3 venerables to receive him. In addition to the middle-aged man and the purple-robed elder, there was also an old woman with a walking stick. Her face was dry and wrinkled like an orange peel. These 3 people exuded a biting cold murderous aura. Reporting to the 3 elders, that kid is still in the Lost Lands. What do the 2 of you think? The middle-aged man asked. When he comes out later, we will suppress him. The 2 elders looked cold and did not allow for any explanation. In the Lost Lands, Lin Xian's body glowed. He felt a huge force trying to expel him. He knew that it was finally time for him to leave. The dark red dragon lay on Lin Shue's body, its eyes full of excitement. Beside it, the snow-white monkey rubbed its sleepy eyes. Soon, Lin Xian turned into a ray of light and rushed toward the huge crack in the sky. He's out. The Divine Bird Palace's powerhouses who were waiting outside suddenly looked up at the sky and smiled coldly. The other 2 forces also watched. They all wanted to see the mysterious young man. Stay. The middle-aged man snorted and waved his hand toward the sky. Suddenly, a huge light palm appeared, covering the sky and the sun, and pressed forward mercilessly. Lin Xian quickly left the Lost Lands under the influence of an inexplicable force. However, in the next moment, he felt a surging force enveloping him, as if it was going to tear him apart. Oh no! His face darkened. Without a doubt, it was the Divine Bird Palace's people. Next to him, the dark red dragon was also angry. Damn it, how dare you block my way? You really don't want to live. When I recover my dragon essence, I'll roast you all. However, although he was angry, his hands did not stop moving. Because he was now with Lin Xian. If he was caught and recognized, he would definitely be refined into medicine. Although his dragon essence and cultivation were gone, his knowledge and experience were still there. The dragon waved its claws and formed a strange pattern in the air. It was like a ferocious little dragon twisting quickly. Soon a magical array was formed around them. Suddenly, the terrifying aura interference weakened a lot. Below, the middle-aged man from the Divine Bird Palace suddenly became gloomy. The other powerhouses were also shocked. The middle-aged man was a venerable. Logically speaking, it should be easy for him to catch a martial artist in the middle stage of the spirit detecting realm. However, he did not expect his first attempt to fail. Interesting, now I'm getting more and more curious. What was the background of that little guy inside? On the deity sword villa's side, a middle-aged man in white stood. He carried a simple long sword on his back. When he opened and closed his eyes, the sword flashed. Beside him stood Yi Linyan and the other genius disciples of the deity sword villa. At this moment, they were all looking at the sky nervously. On the other side, a beautiful woman in palace attire also raised her head and looked over. Countless rays of light surrounded her body, making her look like a fairy. This beautiful woman in a palace dress was the powerhouse of the moon-embracing pavilion. Behind her stood Yu Qingqing and the others. Among them, Zhao Ziki was so nervous that she clenched her small hands and prayed in her heart. Chapter 555. Fortunately, Yu Qingqing had swallowed her pride. Otherwise, the moon-embracing pavilion would have lost more than half of its martial artists. Hearing this, Yu Qingqing's lips curled into a bitter smile. A portrait appeared in her mind. A young man stood proudly with a long sword in his hand. Genius martial artists gathered around him, but no one dared to fight with him. One man and one sword intimidated the surrounding genius disciples. At that moment, Yu Qingqing could only look up. There was an inexplicable fluctuation in her heart. Ever since she started practicing martial arts, she had been regarded as a genius and was surrounded by countless dazzling halos. Soon, she surpassed countless disciples and was worshipped by tens of thousands of people. Among the same level, there were few who could stand shoulder to shoulder with her. The geniuses of other forces could at most tie with her, but it was difficult for them to defeat her. Therefore, she had never worshipped anyone of the same age as her. However, the appearance of Lin Xian made her heart tremble. There was even a trace of worship in her heart. As soon as this thought came to her mind, Yu Qingqing's cheeks flushed red. She had a cold temperament and did not put those men in her eyes. But now, she had an inexplicable feeling for Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian did not know this. At this moment, he was once again in great danger. Because in addition to the sky-covering palm, another terrifying attack appeared from the left and right. This time, the three honorables of the Divine Bird Palace attacked together. In the middle was a terrifying palm of light. On both sides were two illusory images of divine birds. They were hundreds of feet tall. They spread their wings and imprisoned this part of the world. This time, the three joined forces and were determined to take down Lin Xian. The void was in chaos. The terrifying pressure made the surrounding martial artists tremble. This kind of power was too terrifying. Any trace of it could tear them apart. "Master, should we save him?" Yu Qingqing asked softly. The woman in the palace dress turned back. There was a hint of a smile in her eyes. Yu Qingqing blushed and hurriedly lowered her head. She did not dare to look directly at her. After that, the woman in the palace dress said in a deep voice, "Let's wait and see." On the other side, the middle-aged man from the deity sword villa narrowed his eyes. His eyes shone brightly. No one knew what he was thinking. In the void, the three forces intertwined, causing the world to explode. Huge cracks appeared one after another. Lin Xian received a strong attack and was about to be teleported out of the Lost Lands. If that really happened, he would be completely exposed in front of everyone. At that time, he would have no chance of escaping. Thinking of this, Lin Xian unwillingly roared. He operated the great dragon sword soul with all his strength, and an explosive aura appeared on his body, condensing into the appearance of a true dragon, roaring towards the sky. The dark red divine dragon's expression was also uncertain. It gritted its teeth and said, "Brat, continue to use the great dragon sword soul, don't stop. I'm going to use a secret technique." Then, the dark red divine dragon sword, and merged with the true dragon's shadow in the void. The true dragon's silhouette trembled and rapidly transformed, fusing with the dark red divine dragon to form a giant dragon that was several hundred zhang long. Lin Xian was shocked. He didn't expect the dark red divine dragon to have such a secret technique. However, a glimmer of hope rose in his heart, and he exerted even more effort to stimulate the great dragon sword soul. On his shoulder, the snow-white little monkey also showed a trace of anger. It floated in the void, and its big black gem-like eyes became incomparably deep. Finally, it formed two vortexes like black holes. A terrifying aura appeared, as if an immemorial fierce beast had been resurrected. The black vortex and the true dragon's silhouette resisted the surrounding energy attacks with all their strength. Outside, after the powerhouses of the Divine Bird Palace attacked, a sinister sneer appeared in their eyes. They seemed to have seen the situation after Lin Xian was shaken out of the void. However, in the next moment, the void suddenly exploded. The two divine birds' silhouettes suddenly flew back, and a giant dragon that was several hundred zhang long appeared. It roared towards the sky, and with a sweep of its tail and claws, it immediately tore the divine bird's silhouette apart. What is this? Is it a divine dragon? Everyone was horrified. They all looked at the sky, and a touch of shock appeared in their eyes. The middle-aged swordsman from the deity sword villa, and the woman in the palace dress from the moon pavilion also looked dignified. The three powerhouses of the Divine Bird Palace were even more horrified. A sense of fear rose in their hearts. A divine dragon's silhouette had appeared in this place. Was there really a divine dragon here? So what if it is a divine dragon? Our Divine Bird Palace also has divine birds. The three of them snorted. Then the wings on the middle-aged man's back flapped, forming a huge silhouette. It was like two heavenly blades, slashing into the void. The two old men next to him also joined forces to attack, using their respective martial souls. For a moment, the entire sky was flooded with violent energy. The several hundred zhang long divine dragon was too terrifying. Every time it attacked, it brought with it monstrous energy, destroying the Divine Bird Palace's attack array. Hurry up, I can't hold on any longer. Lin Xian gritted his teeth and said, the great dragon sword soul required too much energy. It was very difficult for him to maintain his current strength until now. If this went on, he was likely to faint. The dark red divine dragon nodded to show that it understood. Then it roared and spat out a huge dragon flame from its mouth. The monstrous flame burned, igniting the sky. The boundless sea of fire spread, and the terrifying heat swept in all directions. At this moment, two black vortexes appeared in the void. Then they formed two black light pillars that flew over. Wherever they passed, the void shattered. The two black light pillars were too terrifying. The aura made the venerables present tremble from their souls. The attacks of the three powerhouses of the Divine Bird Palace were shattered, and the three of them were also suppressed by the black serpent light pillar. Just as they were in a daze, Lin Xian was taken away by the teleportation power of the lost land and disappeared into the horizon. Not long after, the monstrous dragon flame and the black light pillar also disappeared. At this moment, the three venerables of the Divine Bird Palace breathed a sigh of relief. Then, their faces became extremely ugly. They quickly attacked and destroyed the sky, but Lin Xian's figure was nowhere to be seen. Ah! The middle-aged man roared wildly. His black hair fluttered, and his body emitted a powerful aura that tore the earth apart. In front of so many people, the three venerables were unable to stop a martial artist in the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm. Shame, it was too shameful. However, what shocked them was that the little thief had the shadow of a divine dragon and a mysterious powerhouse beside him. Especially the black light pillar, they all trembled. The deity sword villa and the moon-embracing pavilion did not laugh at the Divine Bird Palace, because they were also shocked and could not speak for a long time. Go back and report, mobilize all forces, and must not let the little brat escape. The three Divine Bird Palace powerhouses shouted angrily. Suddenly, a terrifying energy rose from the three of them and took away all the disciples of the Divine Bird Palace. The deity sword villa and the moon-embracing pavilion also left. The appearance of such a mysterious youth in the sky martial region would cause a huge shock to the younger generation. Chapter 556. In the void, Lin Xian gritted his teeth and stayed awake. On his shoulder, the little white monkey's eyes regained clarity. It rubbed its big eyes, and then went into the storage bag to sleep. The crimson dragon was also lying on Lin Xian's body, with a listless look on its face. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that he was out of danger for the time being. This time, the teleportation array in the Lost Land sent Lin Xian to an unfamiliar place. In the endless desert, thousands of miles of the Gobi Desert. From time to time, a hurricane would blow by, blowing up the yellow sand and covering the sky. Suddenly, there was a fluctuation in the void, and then a hole opened like a pocket. Then a figure fell from the black hole. This figure was Lin Xian. He escaped from the three venerables of the Divine Bird Palace, and was teleported to this place. At this time, he was a little weak, so he took a defensive posture as soon as he landed. However, when he found that there was no one around, he breathed a sigh of relief. However, when he saw the surrounding scene, he was stunned. Yellow sand filled the sky, and strange rocks were everywhere. There were no trees, and it was very desolate. On his body, the dark red dragon also jumped down, looked around, and then howled. "Damn it, where is this place? Birds don't shit. There's not even a shadow." He was very weak after using the secret technique. He originally wanted to find some spiritual fruits and demonic beast cores to replenish himself. However, he did not expect to be teleported to such a desolate place. Not to mention spiritual fruits, he could not even see Xiao Chao. Lin Xian was also stunned. He had seen mountains, rivers, and bustling cities, but he had never seen such a desert. However, he was glad that there was no one around, so he could recover his strength. After 3 days of recuperation, Lin Xian finally recovered his strength. However, he was still afraid. The aftereffects of overusing the Great Dragon Sword Soul were terrible. He was almost sucked dry. This also reminded him that unless it was absolutely necessary, he must not use the Great Dragon Sword Soul more than he could bear. Otherwise, his life essence would be drained dry, and at that time, only death would await him. After recovering his strength, Lin Xian started to look around. He did not know where he was, so he wanted to find someone to ask. However, Lin Xian discovered that within a radius of 10,000 miles, there was only the Gobi Desert. There was not a single person to be found. The dark red divine dragon had a gloomy look on his face, as he kept trying to persuade Lin Xian to leave this place as soon as possible. Lin Xian had the same idea, so they quickly set off. After summoning Xiao Jin, Lin Xian and the dark red dragon climbed onto Xiao Jin. Little Gold squawked twice, then jumped and ran forward. This place was extremely vast, with yellow sand as far as the eye could see. With a rough look, it seemed that every place was the same. If one was not careful, it was very possible to get lost here. In the desert, there was also a small team moving forward cautiously. Wang Ling was wearing a large white robe that covered his entire body as he walked in the desert. Beside her, there were dozens of martial artist guards wearing white tights. "Miss, we are already close to the depths of the desert. If we go any further, we will reach the center of the desert. It is very dangerous there, you must be careful." Beside Wang Ling, there was an old woman who reminded her in a low voice. "With Grandma Silverflower around, I am very relieved." Wang Ling smiled, and then instructed the martial artists to guard around her. "All of you be careful. Once there is a situation, immediately take action. This time, we must find the primordial yang stone. Miss, this old woman will say something unpleasant." Although the primordial yang stone is precious, compared to life, it is nothing. Grandma Silverflower said, "This is just a rumor. It is not certain if it really exists. We don't need to take this risk." Hearing this, Wang Ling shook her head. She must obtain the primordial yang stone. Not only did she need it, if she could sell it, it would definitely fetch a sky-high price. At that time, her status in the family would skyrocket. A few thousand meters away from Wang Ling's team, Lin Xian arrived on Xiao Jin. With his outstanding soul power, He already knew that there were people ahead. Therefore, he recalled Chick in advance and walked together with the dark red dragon. At this moment, the dark red dragon was very excited. It did not know how it heard the conversation between Wang Ling and the others. When it found out that there was a primordial yang stone here, it was so excited that it almost jumped up. "Kid, you must obtain this primordial yang stone," the dark red dragon said excitedly. Primordial yang stone contained pure primordial qi and life essence. This kind of thing was very rare, and only existed in very special places. The dark red dragon did not expect that there would be primordial yang stone in this desert. It had lost its dragon essence, and its cultivation had dropped. If it had the primordial yang stone, it would be able to replenish its dragon essence. At that time, not only would its cultivation recover, it might even be able to condense a trace of dragon essence. This matter was related to its cultivation and life. How could it not be excited? Lin Xian naturally also heard of the primordial yang stone. This stone was also very useful to him. Lin Xian released his soul power and continued to observe the situation. Soon after, he frowned slightly. These guards were obviously under the command of a young man. That young man was behind Wang Ling. His whole body was covered, only revealing a pair of eyes. With his sharp soul power, Lin Xian felt that there was a deep evil hidden in that gaze. Seeing this gaze, Lin Xian knew that this young guard did not have any good intentions. It was very likely that he had designs on the white-robed girl. However, he seemed to have hidden it very well. The white-robed girl did not notice it. If Lin Xian had merged with the great dragon sword soul, his soul power would have increased greatly. Perhaps he would not have noticed the evil in that gaze. Lin Xian did not stop. Instead, he quickly rushed in that direction. Soon, Wang Ling's group felt the fluctuation of spiritual power behind them. Under the command of the young leader, the surrounding dozens of martial artists all turned around and formed a defensive formation, protecting Wang Ling in the center. Grandma Silverflower also had a grave expression as she looked behind her. Soon, a figure appeared in front of them. Grandma Silverflower was slightly stunned, because this figure was simply too young. It seemed that he was only 17 or 18 years old. However, such a delicate-looking youth had appeared alone in this desert. This made her even more vigilant. When the young guard saw Lin Xian's cultivation, he immediately revealed a disdainful sneer. A trace of coldness filled his eyes. Although the cultivation of a middle-stage spiritual detecting realm martial artist was not weak, it was like an ant in his eyes. He only needed one move to kill a middle-stage spiritual detecting realm martial artist. Therefore, when facing Lin Xian's arrival, he did not feel nervous at all. However, Grandma Silverflower was very cautious. She took a step forward and blocked in front of Wang Ling. She asked in a deep voice, "Who are you? What is your purpose here?" The Sunset Desert was very dangerous. Normally, martial artists would enter and exit in groups. No one dared to act alone like this youth. Chapter 557. Little girl, I heard you guys talking about the primordial yang stone. Do you know where it is? The dark red dragon jumped down from Lin Xian's body and hovered on the ground as he asked. The moment the voice came out, everyone was startled. Their hearts trembled as they looked forward. They discovered that there was a small red snake beside the young man. The voice came from this small red snake. A talking demonic beast. Wang Ling was shocked. The young leader was also shocked. One had to know that even a rank 9 demonic beast might not be able to speak. The small snake in front of them clearly had a terrifying aura. It was impossible for it to be a powerful demonic beast. However, it could actually speak human language. This was simply too shocking. What kind of mutant is this? Everyone was shocked. The young leader's eyes were burning. However, Grandma Silverflower's doubts grew. This young man could actually eavesdrop on their conversation, and they didn't even know. In addition to shock, Wang Ling's eyes also had a trace of vigilance. She said in a delicate voice, "I don't know what the primordial yang stone is." There was a trace of coldness in her words. It was obvious that she didn't want to have too much contact with Lin Xian. The Crimson Divine Dragon stomped his feet anxiously. He wanted to say something, but Lin Xian held him back. "This is my first time here. I'm very unfamiliar with this place. Can I join you? He was indeed unfamiliar with this place. He didn't even know if this place was still in the Sky Marshal region. Therefore, he urgently needed to find someone to ask. However, Wang Ling quickly shook her head. Wang Ling quickly shook her head with a trace of displeasure in her eyes. Grandma Silverflower, who was beside her, also said coldly, "We still have things to do. It's not convenient to bring a stranger with us." The young leader also shouted, "Brat, if you know what's good for you, scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." This voice carried a surge of spiritual power. It rolled over and exploded the surrounding air. Countless yellow sand flew up, forming a huge whirlwind that swept in all directions. This young man was actually at the peak of the spirit detecting realm. No wonder he could become the leader of these guards. His strength was indeed terrifying. The surrounding guards all drew their swords and sabers. A terrifying aura rose from their bodies. "You see, these people don't welcome you. So you should leave," Wang Ling said. Shaking his head, Lin Xian didn't say anything else. Instead, he turned and left. The young leader's strength was on par with Granny Silverflower. Furthermore, he had a group of guards under him. If he wanted to rebel, Grandma Silverflower and the King's spirit would not be able to resist. If Wang Ling agreed to go with Lin Xian, they might be able to avoid a disaster along the way. However, all of this had nothing to do with Lin Xian. He turned around and quickly ran forward, disappearing into the desert in an instant. "Boy, why didn't you continue to ask about the whereabouts of the primordial yang stones?" After leaving those people, the dark red divine dragon shouted in dissatisfaction. "They're on high alert. We can't get anything out of them." Lin Xian shook his head. "So what? With your strength, it shouldn't be difficult to deal with those people. Why don't you capture them and interrogate them? I don't believe that you won't be able to find out the whereabouts of the Yuan Yang stones." The dark red dragon snorted coldly. Lin Xian shook his head. He had killed many people, but those people deserved to die. Other than that, he had never done anything like robbing. Using force to force people he didn't know was something he couldn't do. "Sigh boy, you're still too inexperienced. In the world of cultivation, this kind of thing is common. If you don't do it, maybe someone else will." The dark red divine dragon had an exasperated look on his face. "If my cultivation was still here, I wouldn't have wasted my breath. I would have directly searched their souls. This is good. We're just running around like headless flies. When will we be able to find the Yuan Yang stones?" The dark red divine dragon sighed and then jumped up. It stared at Lin Xian and asked in a deep voice, "Boy, are you deliberately not asking because you don't want me to get the Yuan Yang stones?" Lin Xian helplessly rubbed his ears. "I say, Little Red, are you too bored? Why don't I find Little White to play with you?" Hearing this, the dark red divine dragon drooped its head. In the past few days, it had quarreled with the little white monkey several times. But when the little white monkey's furry paw came down, it would immediately faint. It was the same every time. There was no accident. In the end, when it saw the little white monkey's paw, it had a shadow in its heart. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief when the dark red divine dragon was no longer noisy. Then he released his soul spirit and searched around. Since the dark red divine dragon mentioned the Yuan Yang stones, and had the same attitude just now, Lin Xian was sure that there were Yuan Yang stones nearby. Sunset afterglow. The entire desert was covered in a layer of orange light. The red sun emitted its last trace of heat before completely sinking into the ground. Suddenly, the entire desert became dark. Not only that, countless gusts of wind blew in the surroundings, and the temperature dropped sharply. Lin Xian stopped and did not want to move forward. Normally, with his cultivation, traveling at night would not be a problem. But in this desert, especially after sunset, he felt that his soul spirit was suppressed. Right now, he could only sense the situation within 100 meters. He couldn't sense anything further than that. This was not good news for him. It had to be known that he was walking alone in this desert. It was inevitable that he would encounter something. If he could not predict it in advance, the result would be very dangerous. In the end, he decided to stay in place and wait for the next morning before moving forward again. A bright moon rose, and the cold moonlight shone on the ground. The sand reflected a bit of silver light. In the latter half of the night, the temperature dropped, and the air seemed to freeze. Even with Lin Xian's cultivation, he still felt the bone-piercing cold. What a strange desert. No wonder those people came in groups. Lin Xian was surprised. It had to be known that with his strength, ordinary cold could not threaten him at all. However, the cold air of the desert made him feel uncomfortable. The spiritual power in his body circulated, and a surging aura filled his body, dispersing the cold air around him. With the protection of his spiritual power, it was indeed much warmer. Next, Lin Xian began to cultivate and let the dark red divine dragon stand guard. The cold night passed, and the sun rose. The temperature rose again. This desert was very strange. The temperature at night was very cold. It could probably freeze a spirit transformation realm warrior to death. However, the temperature during the day was extremely high. It was like a furnace. Especially under his feet, it was like flowing lava. It was unbearably hot. Lin Xian used the golden thunder body to form a solid defense as he walked in the yellow sand. Although the journey was boring, he had a new understanding of cultivation. In the past, he had always been in a state of cultivation and fighting. His entire body was in a tense state. It was rare for him to be able to calm down and comprehend like now. These days of walking in the yellow sand had deepened his understanding of martial arts. It could be said that his spirit had been sublimated. Chapter 558. When Wang Ling's group saw Lin Xian again, their faces darkened. In their opinion, Lin Xian must have secretly followed them here. This person was so sneaky that he was definitely not a good person. Grandma Silverflower snorted. Very simple, it'll kill him. The young leader's words were filled with killing intent. Forget it. Let's go find the primordial yang stone first. Wang Ling shook his head. If he really dares to follow us again, it won't be too late to make a move then. Fine, let him live a little longer. Anyway, an ant like him can be dealt with in one strike. The young leader snorted. Feeling the other's killing intent, Lin Xian sneered in his heart. If the other party really made a move, he wouldn't be lenient. Although he wouldn't look for trouble, he wasn't afraid of it either. He even dared to kill people from a 6-star sect like the Divine Bird Palace, let alone these spirit-detecting realm martial artists. Seeing that those people didn't make a move, Lin Xian silently turned around and continued on his way. At night, the temperature dropped again. It was like 10,000-year-old ice floating in the void. There was a cold aura everywhere, as if it could freeze people into popsicles. Lin Xian sat cross-legged, floating in the void. He circulated all the spirit energy in his body to resist the cold aura. He didn't sit directly on the sand because the yellow sand was too strange. It was like an ice hammer in the night, emitting a bone-chilling coldness. Therefore, he chose to float in the void. Not long after, the yellow sand below began to surge, making whooshing sounds like waves. Lin Xian frowned and woke up from his cultivation. He cautiously looked down. Suddenly, the yellow sand below split open, and a black shadow shot out, shining with a cold light, and pierced upwards. Lin Xian snorted coldly and dodged quickly, easily dodging the attack of the black light. Then, he floated in the air and looked down. With his outstanding soul power, he quickly sensed the situation below. It was the tail of a demonic beast. The scales on it were triangular and emitted a cold light. At the tip of the tail, there was a 1-meter-long poisonous needle. There was a purple aura on it. It was obviously poisonous. Lin Xian frowned. That poison needle didn't seem any worse than a high-grade spirit step artifact. At this moment, the dark red divine dragon was also awakened. He looked down and shouted excitedly, "Kill it! Kill it! The demon crystal is mine!" Below, countless clouds of yellow sand tumbled, and then flowed in all directions. A purple poisonous scorpion crawled out from under the yellow sand. Its tail was raised high, and the purple poisonous needle was shining like an awl. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Without any hesitation, he quickly swung his sword. A fine sword light slashed down from above at high speed. This sword light was very light and gentle, as if it did not exist. However, when it neared the scorpion, it suddenly exploded with a sharp aura. The sword light flashed and instantly cut down on the poisonous scorpion. Chi! The scorpion's body trembled and split open from the middle. The split was neat, and its organs and blood spilled out onto the ground. The dark red divine dragon roared and turned into a red ray of light, quickly flying down. It took out a fist-sized demon crystal from the corpse and quickly swallowed it. After killing the poisonous scorpion, Lin Xian did not relax. Instead, he frowned even more because he felt that there was an undercurrent flowing under the yellow sand. A few thousand meters away, Wang Ling's team was also nervously looking around. The entire surface of the yellow sand was moving up and down like waves. A terrifying demonic aura came from the depths of the desert and rushed in all directions. Then there was a rustling sound. Countless poisonous scorpions crawled out from the ground. These poisonous scorpions were purple and as big as mountains. The small ones were the size of dogs. They stood on the yellow sand and bathed in the cold moonlight. They covered the mountains and plains and surrounded Wang Ling's team. The scene was too terrifying. Wang Ling's team only had about 20 people, but there were thousands of poisonous scorpions around them. If they were surrounded, there was no chance of survival. Therefore, in an instant, Grandma Silverflower rushed into the sky with Wang Ling. The young leader also shouted and a powerful aura exploded from his body as he quickly dodged. The other guards protected the two sides and retreated quickly. All of this happened in an instant. The entire team rushed into the sky quickly. From this point, it could be seen that this team was more experienced. On the yellow sand, the poisonous scorpions bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they rushed into the sky. They emitted a terrifying demonic aura that intertwined to form a huge poisonous scorpion shadow. The poisonous scorpion shadow was 100 feet long and filled the entire sky. With a wave of its huge pincers, it tore the void apart. Its long tail was like a divine whip that swept in all directions. In an instant, the poisonous scorpion shadow's tail swept towards Wang Ling's team in the sky. With a loud bang, the guards in the back row were sent flying, vomiting blood as they were sent flying. The young leader and Grandma Silverflower released a powerful aura that formed a golden defense. It was a shield of strong spiritual power that was half a meter thick. It blocked the huge tail that swept over. However, the tail had a strong poisonous aura. When it came into contact with the defense, there was a sizzling sound as if ice and snow were melting in a raging fire. The young leader and Grandma Silverflower were shocked. They quickly waved their palms, and a vast amount of spiritual power surged forward. A resplendent saber radiance slashed across, and a huge palm shadow surged out. Everywhere it passed, sparks flew and large pieces of scales and white bones fell. The two of them joined forces and resisted the attack of the huge tail. However, the two of them did not show any joy because the scorpion shadow appeared again. Its huge pincers were like a hammer of death with a mighty aura. Woo-woo! Everywhere it passed, there was a whistling sound in the air. It was as if hell was crying. It was very miserable. When the sound drifted out, the martial artists and guards felt their scalps go numb and their hearts tremble. Everyone attacked frantically and tried their best to escape. Lin Xian was also surrounded by countless poisonous scorpions. However, he appeared to be much calmer and did not panic. He raised his arm, and the Nirvana sword surged out. The pitch-black long sword slashed downwards. A cold and deathly aura descended like the arrival of the Grim Reaper, and slashed into the group of scorpions. Suddenly, a large number of poisonous scorpions were shattered into pieces. Those that were not hit were also affected by the Nirvana Chi, and lost a large amount of life force. The dark red divine dragon waved its dragon claws at the side, and collected all the cracked demon crystals below. Then it stuffed them all into its mouth. These things were definitely the best nourishment for it. Lin Xian almost instantly killed hundreds of poisonous scorpions. However, even more scorpions swarmed over. The desert shook violently. Groups of poisonous scorpions struggled out of the yellow sand. Densely packed, it was a ghastly sight, causing one to feel fear just by looking at it. This time, there were even more poisonous scorpions, and they were even more powerful. The surroundings were filled with purple demonic aura. It formed a poisonous fog that corroded the surroundings. Lin Xian frowned and retreated quickly, The poisonous aura was very strong. It could poison a spirit-detecting martial artist. He did not want to fight with these scorpions, so he used his movement technique to leave. Chapter 559. Lin Xian soared into the sky and quickly left the place. However, dozens of purple figures suddenly shot up from below. Like purple lightning bolts, they quickly rushed into the sky and chased after Lin Xian. "Fuck flying scorpions!" The dark red divine dragon yelled from the side. Lin Xian turned around. His face was gloomy, because there were dozens of 2-meter-long scorpions behind him. They had a pair of wings on their backs, and were quickly flying over. Their wings were light purple with purple air currents circulating on them. It was very dreamy. The purple wings flapped and instantly rushed towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian was surprised. It was his first time seeing winged scorpions. Moreover, he could clearly sense that these scorpions were abnormally powerful, far surpassing the ones below. It seemed that these scorpions were the elites of the mutated traceless. In an instant, dozens of scorpions flew over and surrounded Lin Xian. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced. Lin Xian's body erupted with a bright light like a small sun. These were all formed by sword qi, and were extremely sharp. These sword qi surged out and slashed in all directions, immediately blasting away the incoming scorpions. Lin Xian did not stay and turned to leave. However, the scorpions behind him surged forward again with purple air currents circulating on their bodies. Obviously, the attack just now did not kill them. It only pushed them back. Lin Xian's expression was cold. 2 rays of sword qi shot out from his eyes. He snorted coldly and raised his right hand. A blood-red longsword condensed. Sword of slaughter. As soon as the blood-red longsword appeared, an endless murderous aura soared. A strong bloodthirsty killing intent swept through the world. This murderous aura was so strong that even the winged scorpions around him trembled slightly. They wanted to move, but Lin Xian did not give them the chance. He waved his arm, and the sword of slaughter flew out. It was like a blood-red sun, shining in all directions. Countless blood-red sword qi slashed horizontally, slashing the venomous scorpions around him, making clanging sounds. Clouds of bloody mist exploded, and those flying scorpions exploded, turning into fragments that fell into the yellow sand, and were soon swallowed up by the yellow sand. After dealing with these poison scorpions, Lin Xian turned around and left. During this period, he encountered 2 flying scorpions that chased after him, but they were both taken care of by his sword of slaughter. In the end, blood-red sword marks formed around Lin Xian and floated around him. They emitted a terrifying aura, making him look like an Azura from hell. It wasn't until the latter half of the night that the venomous scorpions stopped chasing after them. Lin Xian put away the sword of slaughter and used the long life secret art. Only then did the blood-red sword ripples around his body disappear. The shocking killing intent on his body also disappeared. After leaving the poisonous scorpions, Lin Xian continued forward. He felt that this desert was too strange. There were many hidden dangers everywhere. If he was not careful, then he might lose his life here. So he planned to find the primordial yang stones and immediately leave. However, ahead of him, he encountered Wang Ling and the others. However, the other party was no longer as arrogant as before. Instead, they looked battered and exhausted. The number of guards had also decreased by half, and every one of them was wounded. Even the youth and Grandma Silverflower's clothes were shattered in a flash. On the other hand, Wang Ling was still in good condition, but his little face was pale without a trace of blood. It was obvious that these people had also encountered the poisonous scorpions and had just escaped. At this moment, those people also saw Lin Xian. They were angry at first, but then they were stunned. This was because Lin Xian's clothes were very clean and tidy, and there was not a trace of injury on his body. He did not look like he had gone through a great battle at all. How is this possible? Did he not encounter the poisonous scorpions? Grandma Silverflower was shocked. It's just luck. The youth leader coldly snorted, and a trace of gloominess appeared in his eyes. However, in his opinion, Lin Xian was completely lucky that he did not encounter the poisonous scorpions. Otherwise, a small martial artist at the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm would not have been able to escape from the poisonous scorpions. Lin Xian indifferently glanced at Wang Ling's team. Without any expression, he quickly walked past them. Meanwhile, the youth leader coldly snorted, and a surge of killing intent rose from his body. However, this action was stopped by Grandma Silverflower. Her reason was that they had just escaped, and it was not suitable for them to fight. The most important thing now was to quickly rest and recover their strength to deal with what was coming next. Count yourself lucky this time. The next time we meet, I will definitely cut you down with my blade. The youth leader's voice was cold. The night passed and the day arrived. This time, Lin Xian summoned the snow-white little monkey and asked it to use the treasure basin to find the location of the garden sunstone. The snow-white little monkey yawned and took out the shabby little bowl on its head. Then it spoke with conviction like a little charlatan, dancing and jumping with joy. The dark red divine dragon found it funny. Then it seemed to have thought of something and exclaimed, "Could this shabby plate be that treasure basin?" It was bewildered as it carefully stared at the snow-white little monkey, trying to figure it out. The snow-white little monkey jumped for a while, then picked up the little bowl and pointed in a direction. Finally, it jumped onto Lin Xian's shoulder and began to command. Lin Xian smiled and handed the snow-white little monkey a few spirit fruits. Then his body swayed, and he disappeared into a flash of lightning. After walking for half a day, Lin Xian suddenly saw a patch of green trees in front of him. An oasis! His eyes lit up, and he increased his speed. The dark red divine dragon also let out a strange cry and flew over excitedly. In front of him, there was a small oasis with mottled green trees and a crystal-like lake. The dark red divine dragon dove into the lake and played to its heart's content. Damn it, the wind and sand these few days have been too strong. It has dirted my scales. I must wash them properly. The dark red divine dragon kept complaining. Lin Xian also smiled. He took out a few containers and started to store water. The snow-white little monkey was also playing by the lake. At the same time, it took out the shabby little bowl again and kept muttering. Then, it cried out excitedly and ran to a green tree with the small bowl on its head. It started to dig a hole. Its little claws waved and soon, it was holding something that looked like ginseng. Its big eyes were squinted into the shape of a crescent moon. Supreme grade sand ginseng. It's at least 3,000 years old. Seeing this, the dark red divine dragon rushed over with a whoosh. Now he was sure that this shabby bowl was definitely the legendary treasure bowl. Otherwise, the snow-white little monkey would not be able to find such a supreme grade spirit herb. Even with his experienced eyes, he did not find it just now. This supreme grade sand ginseng must have been hidden very deeply. Hee, little monkey, do you want me to exchange it for you? The dark red divine dragon stood on both legs like a wolf with a big tail. It smiled very wretchedly. It waved its claws and took out a few demon crystals, wanting to exchange it with the snow-white little monkey. However, the snow-white little monkey held the supreme grade sand ginseng with disdain in its eyes. It did not care about the demon crystals in the dark red dragon's hands. Chapter 560. If it was in the past, it would have killed the other party with a single slap. But now, it had lost its dragon source, and its cultivation was greatly reduced. Moreover, the other party was too strange. It could often slap it unconscious, so it really could not do anything to the little white monkey. The little white monkey did not care about the dark red dragon's bribe. It put away the top-grade sand ginseng and began to write noisily. In the next moment, the dark red dragon's face darkened and became very ugly. It naturally understood what the little white monkey meant. A monkey the size of a palm wanted to take it in as a follower? How was that possible? Who is it? He was a member of the Eastern Divine Dragon clan. It was the only one in the world, and the leader of all beasts. Although it had lost its dragon source, it would not recognize the little monkey as its boss. No way. This is not negotiable. The dark red dragon was so angry that it crushed the demon crystal in its hand, swallowed it, and quickly left. Damn it, I'm so angry. The dark red dragon kept slapping the water to vent its anger. Lin Xian found it funny, but he did not stop it. The dark red dragon was too hooligan. Perhaps only the little white monkey could control it. After resting for a while, Lin Xian and the others continued on their journey. This time, the little white monkey jumped onto Lin Xian's shoulder, grabbed his hair, and pointed in a direction. "You mean the primordial yang stone is nearby?" Lin Xian asked. The little white monkey nodded and pointed in a direction. Not far from the oasis, there was a barren mountain. There were no plants on it, but there were all kinds of strange rocks piled up on it. It was very strange. The little white monkey had led them to this place. According to it, the primordial yang stone was here. Lin Xian closed his fingers, condensed a sword qi, and quickly slashed forward. Boom! The rocks in front of them were split open, and a cave appeared. A warm aura came from there. This aura was different from the hot air in the yellow sand. It was very gentle, and would not cause harm to the human body. The dark red dragon felt the aura, and jumped up in shock. This was the aura of the primordial yang stone. That's right, it was here. Then it quickly jumped up and rushed over. But not long after, he screamed and flew back. Ouch, this emperor is in so much pain. There's actually a damned restriction. The dark red divine dragon howled in rage. It had charged too fiercely just now, and had directly crashed into the restriction. Although its bones were as tough as steel, it still felt a heart-wrenching pain. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes, stroked his chin and said, "If you can open the restriction, I can give you some primordial yang stones." The dark red divine dragon's eyes lit up. Then he patted his chest and said, "It's just a restriction. How can it stump me?" "Humph. You have to know that this emperor even went to Immortal Palace back then. What does this bit of restriction count for?" It began to shake, quickly breaking through the restrictions. Although the dark red divine dragon had the air of a ruffian, and did things insolently, it had to be said that it was indeed very capable. It didn't take long for it to completely open the restriction here. Then, the earth trembled as if there was an earthquake. Suddenly, a warm aura gushed out and filled the surroundings. Lin Xian stepped forward to take a look. At the same time, his pupils shrank. He couldn't help but take 2 steps forward. A trace of shock appeared on his face. After the seal was opened, the pure yang qi below was too strong. He could feel it from far away. The dark red divine dragon excitedly shouted, "Boy, I'm rich this time." "It's actually a primordial yang stone lode." Primordial yang stone lode? Lin Xian was shocked. One must know that primordial yang stones were already very rare. But he didn't expect that there would be a lode here. Although the scale was not very big, it was enough to shock the world. Moreover, what made him pleasantly surprised was that this primordial yang stone lode was discovered by him. It was an ownerless object, so he could use it alone. This was like picking up a huge treasure. However, the only thing that worried Lin Xian was that when he opened the restriction, there was a violent fluctuation that might alarm others. But then he felt relieved. After all, this was a desert and there weren't many people. But for safety's sake, he decided to quickly take action and search for some. On the other side, the dark red divine dragon has already jumped down. He looked at the ground full of primordial yang stones, and saliva dripped down from the corner of his mouth. Lin Xian's figure flickered and arrived below in a flash. He discovered that there were 3 kinds of primordial yang stones. One of them was the size of a fingernail, and had a somewhat mottled color. It was low-grade primordial yang stone. Another one was the size of a walnut, and was mid-grade primordial yang stone. The best one was the size of a fist and was glossy, and was emitting pure yuan aura. At this moment, the dark red divine dragon was crazily plundering primordial yang stones. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth twitched. This ruffian dragon really dared to take action. All the stones it took were high-grade primordial yang stones. It didn't even look at mid-grade primordial yang stones. Next, Lin Xian's figure flickered, and also quickly took action. "Ha!" The dark red divine dragon laughed heartily. His mouth was grinning from ear to ear. He waved his dragon claws, and took a high-grade primordial yang stone every time. "Rich, this time I'm really rich," the dark red divine dragon unceasingly roared. At this moment, a cool breeze blew, and the high-grade primordial yang stones on the ground instantly disappeared. Immediately, the dark red divine dragon crazily shouted, "Damn! Goddamn brat, slow down a bit." Leave some for me. However, Lin Xian did not slow down and continued to move quickly. The little white monkey looked on in amazement. Then its eyes narrowed into crescents. It took down the small bowl on its head and smashed it on the ground. Then it waved its little claws. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. All the high-grade primordial yang stones in the vicinity appeared in the small bowl. Damn, my primordial yang stones. The dark red divine dragon saw the little white monkey smile, and its lungs exploded with anger. Bandits, a bunch of bandits. The dark red divine dragon's heart was bleeding. It was as if it had gone crazy and moved around the entire mine. Just as Lin Xian and the others were collecting the primordial yang stones, Wang Ling's team also appeared in the nearby oasis. Grandma Silverflower took out a map and said, "According to the map, the primordial yang stones should be near this oasis. Alright, let's take a rest and split up to search," Wang Ling said. However, at this moment, the young leader's eyebrows twitched. He was puzzled and looked into the distance. Even Grandma Silverflower's expression changed as she revealed a puzzled look. This aura, what pure yang qi? Could it be the primordial yang stones? Grandma Silverflower was shocked. As for the young leader, his face was filled with joy. He shouted and quickly ran into the distance. Then he led the guards and set off. I reckon this should be the aura of the primordial yang stones. Let's go and take a look, Grandma Silverflower said. After that, the group of people quickly rushed forward. Not long after, they felt that the pure yang qi in front of them was getting denser and denser. Not far ahead, the ground cracked and a few fingernail-sized stones were scattered on the ground. The young leader took the lead. His body flashed, and he instantly picked up the stones on the ground. Chapter 561. The guards were overjoyed and began to search. Wang Ling walked over with Grandma Silverflower. When she saw this scene, she revealed a gratified smile. Great, we are rich this time. However, when the young leader heard this, he snorted coldly. No, you are wrong. It's not us, it's me. It's me who is rich. The young leader's voice had a tinge of malevolence. The guards beside him also had a playful smile. What do you mean? Wang Ling asked in a deep voice. At the side, Grandma Silverflower shouted angrily. How dare you? Are you rebelling? Rebelling? The young leader laughed insolently. Yes, I am rebelling. Hearing this, Grandma Silverflower's face turned gloomy. She did not expect these guards to rebel at such a crucial moment. Moreover, the one leading the rebellion was the leader of the guards. Why? Wang Ling shouted. Our Wang family has given you a lot. Why? The young leader sneered. Stupid. We followed your Wang family for spiritual stones and resources. Now that we have found the primordial yang stone, what kind of treasure can't we get? Do we still need your Wang family? What a joke. The young leader's voice was cold with a tinge of ruthlessness. Aren't you afraid of the Wang family's revenge? Wang Ling shrieked. Wang family's revenge? The young leader sneered. Do you think the Wang family will know what is happening here in this desert? Looking at the young leader's ferocious face, Wang Ling was finally afraid. She asked in a trembling voice, What do you want? At the side, Grandma Silverflower took a step forward and emitted a powerful aura. I am warning you not to act recklessly. She is the young miss of the Wang family. Don't worry, young miss. We won't kill you. The young leader laughed. Following which, a tinge of evil fire appeared in his eyes. Such a beautiful woman. Of course, we have to enjoy her. After speaking, the surrounding warriors laughed maniacally. Their eyes were filled with lust. Being stared at by so many eyes, Wang Ling's body trembled. She felt her body burning, as though she had been exposed. Despicable. Shameless. Wang Ling shrieked. I am despicable and shameless. What can you do to me? The young leader laughed maniacally. His cultivation was the highest here. He was God. Listen to me obediently. Once I'm tired of playing, I might even let you go. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. At the end of his speech, his body exuded a powerful aura that contained endless killing intent. Wang Ling retreated in terror. She was only at the mid-stage of the spirit-detecting realm, so she couldn't resist this aura at all. Seeing Wang Ling's terrified expression, the young man laughed maniacally. The saber in his hand emitted a dazzling light, and he quickly slashed out, instantly tearing apart Wang Ling's loose robe. In an instant, Wang Ling's clothes were torn to shreds, revealing a large area of snow-white skin. The eyes of the surrounding martial artists lit up like hungry wolves as they stared at the exposed part of his body. Wang Ling screamed in fright and hid behind Grandma Silverflower. On the other hand, Grandma Silverflower snorted coldly. Spiritual energy surged from her entire body and condensed into a silver flower in front of her, which rapidly floated and rotated. "Young mistress, leave quickly. I will stop them," Grandma Silverflower said in a deep voice. Wang Ling nodded, then turned around and left quickly. "You want to leave? It's not that easy. Brothers, capture the little beauty for me," the young leader shouted. Then, he waved his saber and slashed at Grandma Silverflower. A great battle was about to break out. The two experts were fighting, and their terrifying auras shook the surroundings. Wang Ling's path behind her was blocked, so she could only run forward. Soon she arrived near the barren mountain in front of her. At this moment, Lin Xian, who was collecting high-grade primordial yang stones in the barren mountain, suddenly changed his expression. His figure flashed, and he instantly appeared outside the cave. Then, he looked ahead with a gloomy face. Not far ahead, Wang Ling's clothes were tattered, and her body was exposed. She was running toward him with a panicked expression. Behind her were 7 or 8 guards with sabers, who were chasing after her. Lin Xian frowned slightly. Everything was as he had expected. He knew that those guards were up to no good, but he didn't expect it to happen so quickly. "Young hero, save me." Wang Ling saw Lin Xian's figure and immediately shouted. However, the dissatisfaction and disgust in her eyes had long disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a kind of pitiful look. Lin Xian sneered. Not long ago, this woman had arrogantly chased him away. Her attitude was insufferably arrogant. And now, the other party was actually asking for his help. This change in attitude was too fast. Moreover, she had 8 martial artists chasing after her. Most of them were at the mid-stage of the spirit-detecting realm, and 3 of them were at the late stage of the spirit-detecting realm. This kind of team could crush any late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artist. Perhaps only a peak spirit-detecting realm martial artist could take them on. Lin Xian's current cultivation was only at the mid-stage of the spirit-detecting realm, but Wang Ling was asking him for help. This was clearly sending him to his death. If it was anyone else, they might have rushed over after seeing her pitiful appearance. However, Lin Xian was different. He was very calm and analyzed the situation clearly in an instant. He was still standing there, not moving at all. Wang Ling cursed in her heart when she saw that Lin Xian was not doing anything. However, she knew that only Lin Xian could buy her some time and give her a chance to escape. Therefore, she put on a pitiful expression, and there was even a hint of charm in her eyes. "Young master, save me." Wang Ling arrived beside Lin Xian in a flash. She purposely revealed a large portion of her skin, making her expression even more pitiful. When the people behind saw this, they suddenly felt a ball of fire in their lower abdomens. They wanted nothing more than to take Wang Ling on the spot. They quickly rushed over and surrounded Lin Xian and Wang Ling. One of the late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artists walked out and shouted, "Brat, this is none of your business. Hurry up and scram, or I'll cut you down as well." Lin Xian raised his brows and said, "I don't care about your business. If you want to fight, scram to the side." Hearing this, Wang Ling's heart tightened. The guards in front were furious. A mid-stage spirit-detecting realm brat dared to tell them to scram. This was too much. Moreover, what shocked them even more was that there was an extremely pure yang energy coming from the cave behind the brat. There was no need to think. There was definitely a primal yang stone inside. "Brothers, go! Capture that girl first, then kill this brat, and take the primal yang stone," the late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artist shouted. Immediately, the surrounding martial artists pulled out their swords and rushed over. "Scram!" Lin Xian shouted coldly. A sound wave carrying a terrifying energy spread out. It turned into a rolling wave that surged forward. Instantly, the terrifying sound wave sent the guards in front flying. The mid-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artists were sent flying while vomiting blood. Among them, 3 late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artists felt their blood boil. Their faces were filled with shock. Chapter 562. Their combination was enough to kill any late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artist, but a mid-stage spirit-detecting realm brat was able to injure all of them with just a roar. This was too unbelievable. Wang Ling was also shocked. Her eyes were filled with horror. However, she was overjoyed. At least she was safe for now. Moreover, with the young leader's temper, he definitely wouldn't let Lin Xian go. If the two of them fought, both of them might be injured. At that time, she would work with Grandma Silverflower to kill all of them. Then all the primal yang stones in this cave would be hers. Thinking of this possibility, Wang Ling was excited. The pitiful expression on her face became even more intense. She even secretly tore her clothes to shreds, revealing her alluring figure. As long as she could charm Lin Xian, her plan would be halfway to success. At this moment, another terrifying aura came from behind. 2 rays of light flashed. 2 powerful auras flew over from the distance. With a flash of light, 2 figures landed on the ground. Miss, when Grandma Silverflower saw Wang Ling's tattered clothes, her eyelids twitched. Her figure flashed, and she arrived beside Wang Ling. She looked around vigilantly. On the other side, the young leader's face darkened when he saw the guards lying on the ground and wailing. These guards were very powerful. Apart from him, no one would be able to withstand their combined attack. However, all of them were lying on the ground, and many of them were seriously injured. He found it hard to accept. Who injured you? The young leader asked in a deep voice. Their expressions were ugly as they looked at Lin Xian. However, they couldn't say anything. A mid-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artist had injured them with just a roar. No one would believe it if they said it. However, the young leader didn't need them to say anything. He knew everything from their expressions. Then, he looked at Lin Xian with killing intent in his eyes. Brat, you dare to injure my people? You're courting death. His voice was cold and shook the void. However, his gaze quickly swept past Lin Xian and looked at the cave behind him. He could feel a dense pure yang energy there. Could it be primal yang stones? The young leader's voice trembled. Then his eyes lit up. That's right, primal yang stone. It's definitely primal yang stone. And there must be a lot of them. Otherwise, it would be impossible to have such pure yang qi. Grandma Silverflower's face was also filled with shock as she stared at the cave crack not far away. Ha 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 ha, I've struck it big this time. The young leader laughed wildly. Little beauty, I have to thank you this time. He was simply too excited. If he could obtain the primordial yang stones in the cave, then he would definitely become rich overnight. And there was even a chance that his personal wealth would surpass the entire Wang clan. At that time, he could also use this wealth to develop his own family's power and become an overlord. When he thought of this, his entire body became agitated. An incomparably tyrannical saber chi soared from his body, as if it was about to break through the sky. All of you will die. This voice contained a cold killing intent. Obviously, the young leader was determined to kill. He would not let these people leave alive otherwise. If others knew that he had so many primordial yang stones, they would face an imminent disaster. One had to know that even supremacies would be envious of primordial yang stones. Wang Ling put on a new robe. She was still standing beside Lin Xian, but in her heart, she was constantly thinking of a way to deal with this situation. She and Grandma Silverflower stood to the side, not saying anything, nor did they have any intention of helping Lin Xian. From the looks of it, she wanted to let Lin Xian and the young leader fight, letting both sides suffer, and then reap the benefits. Lin Xian was expressionless as he said indifferently, I'll give you a chance, either get lost or die. His voice was very calm, without a trace of fluctuation, as if he was talking about a very ordinary matter, but the domineering aura in his voice was unmistakable. Hearing this, the young leader frowned and immediately sneered. Threatening me, with just you? Brat, I think you're tired of living. Don't you know how to write the word death? Fine, today let me teach you what regret is. I'll split you open with my saber. and let you know that there are some people you can't provoke. Boss, this brat is very strange, be careful. One of the guards said. A bunch of good-for-nothings. I've raised you for nothing. The young leader coldly snorted. You can't even beat a middle-stage spirit-detecting brat. What trash. All of you come with me now. The guards felt bitter in their hearts, but they didn't dare to disobey the young leader's order, or else their end would be very miserable. These people were holding sabers and swords, and their hands were constantly trembling. The long sabers in their hands were clattering. Even so, they still didn't dare to make a move against Lin Xian. There was no other way. The scene just now was too shocking. Just a sound wave had injured all 8 of them. This brat's strength was too terrifying, and he wasn't any weaker than the young leader. Useless trash, get out of my way. I'll let you see what true strength is. The young leader coldly snorted, and his aura surged out like a wave, causing the surrounding guards to retreat. In his hand was a huge blue saber. The back of the saber was very wide as 2 palms. From the looks of it, it was obvious that this saber was very heavy. Sure enough, the young leader casually waved it, and it caused the void to buzz as if it couldn't bear it. One move is enough to deal with you. He was very confident. He raised his right arm, and the snow-white saber emitted a cold aura in the air. Then his arm fell, and a resplendent saber light rushed out. It turned into saber chi and quickly slashed forward. Wherever it passed, the air cracked, and the ground sank. It was a terrifying scene. Wang Ling's expression changed drastically. Her small face was pale, and she kept retreating. Fortunately, Grandma Silverflower was protecting her by the side. She formed a silver-colored flower defense and protected her, preventing her from being corroded by the saber chi. This saber was too stunning. Probably no one below the peak of the spirit-detecting realm could block it. The young leader sneered. He could even see the scene of Lin Xian being chopped into pieces by his saber chi. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh. But soon his laughter stopped. It was as if someone was strangling his neck. That arrogant laughter suddenly disappeared in the air. Not only that, his entire face was red, and it was as if he couldn't breathe. The surrounding martial artists were shocked, and they were dumbfounded. This was because they saw Lin Xian shatter that resplendent saber light with just one punch. The whole process was smooth and without any pause. It was obvious that Lin Xian's punch was casual. How is this possible? How can you shatter my saber chi? The young leader screamed. He didn't believe that his opponent could shatter his attack, even if he was beaten to death. However, it really happened in front of his eyes, and he had to believe it. Chapter 563. It was also her first time seeing Lin Xian make a move. She didn't expect this weak youth to have such terrifying strength. Fortunately, she didn't make a move against Wu. Otherwise, the consequences would be terrifying. On the side, Wang Ling's eyes flashed with excitement. Just as she thought, Lin Xian's strength was on par with the young leader. Perhaps he was a little stronger. However, if the 2 of them fought, both sides would be injured. At that time, they might even perish together. At that time, they would have an absolute advantage, because in this battle, other than the young leader and Lin Xian, only Grandma Silverflower's strength had reached the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. At that time, they would be the rulers. On the other side, the young leader also calmed down from his shock. Good kid, I didn't expect you to hide your strength. Looking at your appearance, your true strength should have reached the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. There was a trace of seriousness in his expression. Then, he tightly gripped the blue broadsword in his hand. However, don't think that you can defeat me just like that. That attack just now was just a casual attack. You being able to shatter it doesn't mean anything. Next, I will let you know my true strength. I will also make you regret being born into this world. At this point, a powerful aura surged from the young leader's body. It was very sharp and slashed in all directions like a heavenly blade. A powerful aura surged from the young leader's body. It was like a heavenly blade that slashed at Lin Xian. Blade intent. Wang Ling was shocked. This blade intent was too strong. It was as if it was going to tear the sky apart. Grandma Silverflower's expression was also grave. In the battle just now, she was suppressed by this blade intent. Although both of them were late-stage spirit-detecting realm martial artists, she had been in this realm for decades and was far stronger than the young leader. Logically speaking, her battle strength should be stronger. However, the other party's blade intent was too strong. Even she couldn't withstand it. Now this terrifying blade intent appeared again and slashed at Lin Xian. According to Grandma Silverflower's deduction, Lin Xian couldn't block it at all. Blade intent? 70%. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. A trace of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. Although the other party's saber intent was incomparably sharp in the eyes of others, in his opinion, it could not withstand a single blow. After all, even Yi Linyan, who had comprehended sword intent to the phenomenal stage, wasn't a match for him, let alone this young leader. Since the other party was courting death, there was nothing he could do. Thus, when the blade aura slashed down, he did not move in the slightest. The surrounding injured cultivators grinned maliciously. In their opinion, Lin Xian must have been scared silly. Wang Ling cursed in her heart. What a piece of trash. She originally thought that she would be able to contend against the young leader, but she did not expect that she would be so weak. Seeing this scene, she was extremely anxious. One had to know that Lin Xian's battle prowess was a part of her plan, and the current situation was likely to cause her plan to fail. The young leader sneered. His saber intent was extremely tyrannical. Even martial artists of the same level would not dare to forcefully contend against it. It was impossible for a small martial artist at the middle stage of the spirit-detecting realm to withstand his saber intent. You still want to fight with me? You're courting death. The young leader snorted coldly. Looking at the blade aura that was rapidly approaching him, Lin Xian's lips curled up slightly. Then, he slowly reached out his hand and clenched it slightly. This palm seemed slow and casual, but it was extremely fast. Moreover, he was grabbing at the weak point of the saber intent. Therefore, in the next moment, the shocking blade aura suddenly trembled, and then shattered like a mirror. What, he actually shattered the blade aura? This is impossible. Everyone was stunned. That was a blade aura that had been infused with 70% saber intent. It was extremely sharp, and could even threaten a martial artist at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. However, such a sharp attack had been casually shattered. How did that kid do it? Who is he? The surrounding martial artists were shocked and subconsciously retreated. They no longer dared to look at Lin Xian. Wang Ling was also stunned. She felt her mind go blank, and could not breathe. The young leader's pupils constricted. His eyes were filled with shock. He knew the power of this move. With Yi Linyan's strength, it was impossible for him to withstand it. How did he do it? The young leader was extremely puzzled. Then he stomped his feet and quickly rushed over. Blue blade aura. The young leader swung the blue blade in his hand. It formed a dazzling blue blade aura that enveloped Lin Xian. The terrifying saber intent rose up into the sky, as if it could cut through everything. Lin Xian's expression was cold. He did not intend to waste time with the other party. His body swayed as he used the illusory demon steps. His speed was extremely fast. He put two fingers together, and a sword aura flickered on his fingertips. He pointed out with his finger. It was as fast as lightning, and as shocking as divine thunder. The green sword aura flashed, and cut through the blade aura that filled the sky. Then, it pierced into the young leader's throat at an extremely fast speed. So fast. No. Can. In the next moment, the blade aura and sword aura disappeared. The young leader's body trembled, and his pupils gradually dilated. The powerful aura on his body was quickly disappearing. There was a finger-sized hole in his throat and blood was flowing out crazily. He stared blankly at Lin Xian before collapsing. Even in death, he did not believe that this middle-stage spirit-detecting realm youth could kill him in one move. Silence. It was terrifyingly quiet. Everyone was dumbstruck. They only regained their senses after a long time. The surrounding martial artists and guards threw away their weapons and knelt on the ground. Their bodies trembled as they begged for mercy. Wang Ling's heart was beating wildly. Her face was filled with shock as her chest heaved up and down. To be honest, she was truly shocked. She would never have thought that this unremarkable youth would have such great strength. If the other party could kill the young leader, then he could also kill Grandma Silverflower. This way, her plan could not be carried out. Grandma Silverflower's eyelids were twitching wildly. She swallowed her saliva with difficulty as her body trembled slightly. She was the strongest here, and had the most unique insight. Therefore, she could deeply feel the terror of that sword aura. Although she was very far away, she still felt like she was about to die at that moment. She took a deep breath, and did not dare to act rashly. Instead, she said with a trembling voice, "Thank you, young master, for saving my young miss. All right, the matter has been settled. You can leave," Lin Xian said indifferently before turning around to leave. Leave? Wang Ling was stunned. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness. The cave ahead was definitely filled with primordial yang stones. That was a shocking treasure. However, she was so close but could not obtain anything. Now she even had to leave. How could she be willing to leave? However, Lin Xian's performance had indeed shocked her. She did not have the courage to face such a terrifying enemy. Therefore, Wang Ling bit her lips and revealed a pitiful expression. "Young master, this desert is so dangerous. Are you really not worried about me leaving alone?" Chapter 564. Why don't you let me follow you? Once we leave the desert, my Wang family will definitely reward you handsomely. Wang Ling tried her best to stay by Lin Xian's side. On the other hand, Lin Xian frowned slightly. He was very dissatisfied. Earlier, he had proposed to travel together, but he was mercilessly rejected and even mocked. Now she wanted to leave with him? How could that be possible? There was no such thing in the world. He wanted to reject her. But in the next moment, he suddenly turned his head and looked into the void. Wang Ling didn't know why Lin Xian had such a reaction, but Grandma Silverflower frowned slightly. She also tried to sense. Not long after, her heart trembled, and she revealed a look of shock. That was because she felt several powerful auras rushing over from afar. Any one of those auras could make her tremble. Needless to say, these people's cultivation must have surpassed the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. Thinking of this, a worried expression appeared on her wrinkled face again. Not long after, Wang Ling also felt those powerful auras. Her little face was also tense, and her little hands were clenched together uneasily. The change in the situation was beyond her expectations again. Lin Xian frowned and looked into the sky. At the same time, he secretly sent a voice transmission to the dark red dragon and the snow-white monkey in the cave, asking them to speed up their collection. In the next moment, a few figures descended and stood in the void. That powerful pressure caused the surroundings to buzz and tremble, as if the entire void could not withstand this power. A few figures descended and stood in the void, emitting powerful auras. Then these people looked down with disdain. Primordial yang stone. It is indeed primordial yang stone. The voice in the sky had a hint of excitement. Then, the few figures slowly descended. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and looked into the sky. He noticed that the first to descend was an elder in linen clothes. This elder had an aquiline nose and dark eyes. His aura was powerful, and his cultivation was probably at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. When the surrounding guards felt this aura, they immediately knelt on the ground and trembled. Grandma Silverflower was also shocked. She carefully guarded Wang Ling at the side. On the other hand, Lin Xian appeared to be very calm. However, he didn't do anything excessive, and just stood there silently. Under such circumstances, he did not want to become the center of attention. The moment the gray-robed old man landed, he looked forward. His eyes were like divine light as he stared at the cave in front of him. Then he grinned. His palm danced, forming a huge claw of light that grabbed forward. It looked as if it was going to envelop the entire mountain. However, at this moment, a beam of sword light fell from the sky like a rainbow, and instantly sent the huge palm of light flying. After that, the sword light also disappeared. "Old Hui, aren't you being too impatient?" A slightly dissatisfied voice came from behind. It was a blue-haired middle-aged man with a long sword at his waist. His aura was fierce. Other than the blue-haired swordsman, there was also a young woman and a one-armed old man. These three people had powerful auras that were not any weaker than the gray-robed old man. It was clear that these people were all at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. Wang Ling, who was originally worried and afraid, immediately became happy when she saw the blue-haired middle-aged swordsman. "Uncle Shengguan," Wang Ling shouted and quickly ran over. Grandma Silverflower also heaved a sigh of relief and followed behind Wang Ling. "Hey, it's actually the little girl from the Wang family. Little girl, why are you here?" What happened? Even your guard leader was slaughtered. Who did it?" Seeing the corpse on the ground, the blue-haired middle-aged swordsman frowned. "Uncle Shengguan, you have to seek justice for me." Wang Ling immediately cried and looked very sad. "I originally obtained an ancient map that marked the existence of the primordial yang stone. Then, I brought my guards to search for it. Along the way, I traveled with that young man." Then, she pointed at Lin Xian. "However, who would have thought that when we reached the primordial yang stone, this guy suddenly betrayed me and killed my guard leader. Moreover, he wanted to occupy the primordial yang stone cave. Not only that, he wanted to molest me. Uncle Shengguan, you have to save me." Wang Ling cried bitterly and looked very pitiful. It was as if she had suffered a great injury. Hearing this, Lin Xian's face turned extremely cold, and his eyes were filled with intense killing intent. This woman was really too vicious. He was the one who discovered the primordial yang stone cave, and the betrayal was done by the young guard leader. As for the molestation, it was even more impossible. And now Wang Ling, this evil woman, had pushed all the blame onto him. Lin Xian felt a chill in his heart. One must know that not long ago, he had saved Wang Ling's life. Now that this vicious woman had a new backer, she wanted to distort the truth and kill him to silence him. "As expected, you are vicious. I have never seen such a shameless woman. Uncle Shengguan, look, he is still insulting me." Wang Ling cried again. Her small face was filled with tears, and it made one's heart ache. "Good boy, you look honest, but I didn't expect you to do such a thing." The blue-haired swordsman coldly snorted. "Break your arms and kneel on the side. I will deal with you after I settle the matter of the primordial yang stone." There was a trace of coldness and ruthlessness in his voice. The other three-peak spirit-detecting realm martial artists were even more expressionless. They didn't even look at Lin Xian. Lin Xian chuckled when he heard those words. "I think you've gone stupid from practicing the sword. You believe everything she says. Do you have a brain?" Lin Xian coldly snorted. "You still dare to talk back? You're courting death." The blue-haired swordsman's gaze was cold, and like a sword, it quickly swept towards Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian punched out and shattered the sword. Then he coldly shouted, "The one who wanted to betray us was the young leader. It was this vicious woman who begged me, so I saved her life. I didn't expect her to bite back. Even pigs and dogs know how to repay kindness, but she is worse than an animal." Lin Xian's voice was cold and contained a strong killing intent. You're courting death." Wang Ling was trembling with anger. He dared to insult her like this. Moreover, he did it in front of a peak spirit-detecting realm martial artist. Was he not afraid of death? The other three peak spirit-detecting realm martial artists were also slightly moved. To be honest, it was the first time they had seen a youth like Lin Xian, who was not afraid of death. As for the blue-haired swordsman, his expression was cold. He looked at Lin Xian, as if he was looking at a dead man. In fact, in his eyes, Lin Xian was already dead because no one had ever dared to speak to him like this. Anyone who had done such a thing had already died and ceased to exist. However, what shocked him even more was that Lin Xian didn't stop there. Instead, he continued to shout. "What I said just now was the first thing. I wanted you to see the ugly face of this vicious woman. The second thing is to tell you that I found this place." Chapter 565. At the end of his words, the sound waves turned into rolling waves that swept through the sky and scattered the clouds in the sky. The surrounding martial artists and guards were all lying on the ground, trembling. The three extreme spirit-detecting realm martial artists all had cold expressions. The blue-haired swordsman was so angry that he started laughing. What did he just hear? A mid-stage spirit-detecting realm kid actually told them to scram? No one would believe it if they heard it. One had to know that the gap between each stage of the spirit detecting realm was huge. An extreme martial artist could definitely kill a mid-stage spirit detecting realm martial artist in one move without any accidents. Is this kid crazy? He actually dares to insult extreme spirit detecting realm martial artists, and 4 of them at once. Does he really not want to live anymore? Grandma Silverflower was shocked. Good. Kid, you have guts. Don't think you're going to die for sure. You have to know that there's a state in this world that's worse than death. When I get the primordial yang stone, it'll let you enjoy the torture of this world. It'll let you know that there are some words that you can't say even when you're about to die. The other 3 extreme spirit detecting realm martial artists also had cold expressions. They looked at Lin Xian with killing intent. Their identities were special, and no one had ever dared to scold them like this. When Wang Ling saw this scene, she sneered in her heart. In her opinion, Lin Xian was definitely going to die. Lin Xian looked at these people, but his heart was burning with anger. He didn't want to cause trouble, but these people were so aggressive and didn't plan on letting him go. Since that was the case, he couldn't be blamed. He would let these people know who was the prey. Moreover, he definitely wouldn't let Wang Ling, this vicious woman, go. It was fine if she didn't want to repay his kindness, but she actually distorted the truth and tried to lure experts to kill him. This kind of person definitely couldn't be left alive. Lin Xian raised his head with a cold expression. Countless golden lightning danced on his body, intertwining to form a golden armor. Lin Xian's body glowed with golden lightning patterns as he activated the golden lightning body. What, kid, you still dare to attack? The blue-haired swordsman laughed, his eyes full of disdain. A little martial artist at the middle stage of the spirit detecting realm actually dared to make a move against him. He really was tired of living. Little kid, I know you have some strength and can kill late-stage spirit detecting realm cultivators. However, your strength is still too lacking compared to us. I advise you to surrender obediently. Don't ask for trouble, the prostitute said. However, the one-armed old man beside him sneered. You're just an ant, yet you dare to compete with a giant dragon? You don't deserve to die. As soon as he finished speaking, he lifted his leg, which formed a huge shadow of a leg, and blasted forward. It had to be said that a martial artist at the limit of the spirit detecting realm was truly too powerful. Just a casual attack had the power to split the heavens and earth. This leg shadow was like a heavenly pillar, flowing with light. Wherever it passed, the earth would collapse. The ground trembled and cracks appeared. Countless grains of sand flowed downwards like yellow waves. It was a spectacular sight. Those guards who were originally lying on the ground were swept by the leg shadows and instantly exploded, turning into a bloody mist. In the blink of an eye, that terrifying leg shadow arrived in front of Lin Xian. Lin Xian's eyes focused. He let out a low roar and suddenly punched out with his right fist. The golden fist shadow broke through the sky like a golden wheel, illuminating the sky and colliding with the terrifying leg shadow. Lin Xian had consumed many heavenly treasures, and his life force had reached the level of a supremacy. Moreover, he also had a powerful body refinement technique, like the golden lightning body. Therefore, this punch could be said to be extremely violent. An earth-shattering sound resounded through the 9 heavens as a terrifying energy exploded. A terrifying aura swept out in all directions, causing the expressions of Wang Ling, Grandma Silverflower, and the others to change. Even those martial artists at the limit of the spirit detecting realm frowned. With their strength, they could naturally sense that Lin Xian's aura was still there. In fact, it hadn't weakened by much. When the dust cloud dissipated and Lin Xian's figure was revealed, the surrounding martial artists trembled slightly. This was because they saw that Lin Xian's body was shining with golden lightning. He was completely unharmed, as if he hadn't been injured. How is this possible? Wang Ling was stunned, her face pale. The one-armed old man's face was terrifyingly gloomy. He was a martial artist at the limit of the spirit detecting realm. That kick just now was enough to kill several martial artists at the peak of the spirit detecting realm. However, that attack couldn't hurt a kid at the middle stage of the spirit detecting realm. Even if the other party was hiding his strength, the result couldn't be like this. Could that kid also have the strength of a martial artist at the limit of the spirit-detecting realm? The one-armed old man's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure. However, the kid in front of him was definitely not as simple as he seemed. With a cold snort, he stood to the side and didn't make a move. This kid's opponent should be the blue-haired swordsman. Before he figured out his opponent's strength, he wouldn't draw fire to himself. Seeing the one-armed old man stop, the other martial artists at the limit of the spirit-detecting realm were shocked. One had to know that experts like them could kill a group of spirit-detecting realm martial artists with a raise of their hand. There was only one reason why the one-armed old man didn't make a move. He wasn't confident. Thinking of this, everyone sucked in a cold breath. Then, they looked at Lin Xian with a serious expression. They didn't expect this seemingly weak youth to be a difficult opponent. Wang Ling's heart skipped a beat. This was completely different from what she had expected. She didn't expect Lin Xian to be so strong that he could contend against a martial artist at the limit of the spirit-detecting realm. If the blue-haired swordsman was here, she probably wouldn't be able to withstand one of Lin Xian's palms. Thinking of this, she looked at the blue-haired swordsman with a worried expression. The blue-haired swordsman's face was also gloomy. The kid in front of him was even more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. However, since he had said that he would kill the other party, how could he stop? Moreover, this was related to an extremely important resource like the primordial yang stone. So he wouldn't stop. I didn't expect you to be able to withstand one move. Interesting. However, if this is what gives you the right to be arrogant, then you can go die. The blue-haired swordsman pulled out the silver sword at his waist and slowly walked out. The next moment, the aura on his body changed greatly. An extremely sharp aura spread out from his body like a sword being unsheathed. At that moment, cracks appeared in the air between heaven and earth. It was as if a small mirror had been shattered. What a powerful sword chi! The martial artists at the limit of the spirit-detecting realm frowned with serious expressions. Among martial artists at the same level, swordsmen were extremely powerful because their attacks were extremely powerful. They could even surpass those at the same level. It was clear that the blue-haired swordsman was this kind of person. His body emitted a powerful sword chi as he slowly raised the silver sword in his hand. And remember, there are some people you can't afford to provoke. As his voice fell, the silver sword light soared into the sky like a silver river and slashed toward Lin Xian. Swords aren't meant to be used like that. Chapter 566. Then he also took a step forward, and a powerful aura burst out from his body. The large dragon sword intent surged and pierced through the clouds. It was like a peerless divine sword, shining with a shocking light. This is sword intent. The extreme spirit-detecting realm martial artists were shocked and revealed looks of disbelief. Especially the blue-haired swordsman, his pupils shrank. Sword intent was an extremely offensive concept. Out of 10,000 swordsmen, there might not even be one that could comprehend sword intent. One had to know that even he had not comprehended sword intent. But this little brat had actually comprehended sword intent. Looking at that aura, it was definitely not weak. The blue-haired swordsman's face was gloomy, and there was a ball of jealousy burning in his heart. Seeing the terrifying potential of the other party, his heart was filled with killing intent. If he could not kill this brat today, he would be in great trouble in the future. Therefore, he would not let Lin Xian leave alive. Then, the sword chi in the blue-haired swordsman's hand became even brighter and sharper. Lin Xian, on the other hand, had the same intention of killing his opponent. As such, he used a terrifying ultimate move right from the start. A pitch-black sword appeared in his hand. Sword of Nirvana. A cold aura of death spread out and instantly enveloped the surroundings. Lin Xian was like a death god from hell, filled with danger. The sword of Nirvana quickly waved and turned into a black sword light. It emitted a cold aura of death and slashed forward like the call of the death god. Boom, boom, boom. The sword of Nirvana stabbed out, and everywhere it passed, life was quickly lost. The air was like a tide that quickly retreated to the sides. In an instant, it collided with the silver sword chi. Puchi. Under the influence of the sword of Nirvana, The silver sword chi was quickly lost and finally dissipated. What? You can actually break my sword chi in one move? The blue-haired swordsman's heart beat wildly. He did not expect Lin Xian's sword technique to be so strange. It was actually able to silently dissolve his killing move, especially that pitch-black longsword, which made his heart palpitate. The other three extreme spirit-detecting realm martial artists were even more shocked. They knew that Lin Xian was very strong, but it seemed that they had underestimated the youth in front of them. Swords are not used like that. Swordsmen are not despicable people like you. I will let you know what a true sword art is, and what a swordsman is. Lin Xian floated in the sky, holding the Nirvana sword in his left hand, his entire body emitting an aura of death. Brat, how arrogant! The blue-haired swordsman shouted angrily, his face darkening. As an expert at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm, he was in existence revered by tens of thousands of people. However, a little brat dared to ridicule him like this. I want to see what kind of ability you have. The blue-haired swordsman clenched his teeth and said, although he did not comprehend sword intent, he had comprehended another kind of concept. Blue sea concept. Coupled with his ocean abyss swordsmanship, he could unleash an extremely powerful combat strength. He believed that as long as he used his full strength, he would definitely be able to kill this despicable little thief in front of him. In the next moment, the spirit energy around the blue-haired swordsman surged, and a blue ocean appeared behind him. It felt so real. An incomparably vast energy quickly spread out in all directions, causing the blue-haired swordsman's aura to soar once more. Ocean abyss swordsmanship. The blue-haired swordsman shouted angrily. The silver longsword in his hand surged. Suddenly, countless blue sword rays appeared in the sky. Each ray was dozens of feet long, and looked like sparkling blue crystals. There were terrifying sword auras revolving around them. The sky was filled with blue sword auras as they streaked across, and the void roared. It was as if thousands of tsunamis were surging over. The momentum was terrifying. Lin Xian stood in the void. He slowly stretched out his right hand, and sword auras surged around his body. A blood-red longsword condensed and quickly appeared. Then a monstrous amount of blood chi rushed out, accompanied by a monstrous amount of murderous intent. Suddenly, the air was filled with a pungent smell of blood. Countless mountains of bloody bones appeared in the surroundings. The scene was hideous and terrifying, like Azura from hell. That shocking killing intent also turned into countless sharp thorns, as if they were going to pierce one's soul. Below, Wang Ling, Grandma Silverflower, and the others had horrifying expressions. There was no trace of blood on their faces. This killing intent had almost made them faint. Lin Xian held the Nirvana sword in his left hand, and the massacre sword in his right. He was like a god of death from hell, and his aura was extremely powerful. The two swords clashed, and suddenly slashed forward. A stream of pitch-black chi, and a stream of scarlet sword chi intertwined in the shape of a cross, and rapidly surged forward. The aura of Nirvana and massacre followed. Everywhere it passed, the void shattered. It could not withstand it at all. In just one exchange, the red and black sword light tore apart the wave-like sword aura. At the same time, Lin Xian used the illusory demonic steps to increase his speed to the limit. In an instant, he was in front of the blue-haired swordsman. What? So fast? The blue-haired swordsman was already shocked when he saw the blue sword aura being torn apart. However, before he could react, his opponent was already in front of him. The pitch-black Nirvana sword and the blood-red massacre sword appeared at the same time, and quickly pierced towards him. No! The blue-haired swordsman screamed. His face was drained of blood, and his heart was filled with fear. He tried his best to dodge. At the same time, he used his strongest defense, and placed it in front of him. An ancient-looking shield quickly enlarged, and appeared in front of him, emitting a yellow light. At the same time, layers of armor quickly formed on his body, and tightly wrapped around him. However, the Nirvana sword and the massacre sword were too strong. The sword light was like a rainbow, carrying a blood-red killing intent, and the aura of Nirvana. The two forces instantly tore apart the blue-haired swordsman's defense. All of this happened in an instant. The blue-haired swordsman's eyes were filled with fear, and his face was drained of blood. He screamed crazily and kept begging for mercy. He was even filled with regret. If he did not provoke Lin Xian, this killing god, he would not be in danger at all. However, it was all too late. The pitch-black Nirvana sword and the blood-red massacre sword quickly pierced through, destroying the blue-haired swordsman's life force. In an instant, the blue-haired swordsman's body trembled and fell to the ground. In an instant, the extremely powerful spirit-detecting realm swordsman fell on the spot. The surroundings were silent. The three spirit-detecting realm swordsmen were dumbfounded and stood rooted to the ground. Wang Ling's face was filled with fear. She almost fainted from fright. She did not think that the powerful blue-haired swordsman could not even block one of Lin Xian's moves. Dream! I must be dreaming! She crazily tore at her hair to wake herself up from the dream. However, the pain deeply reminded her that all of this was real. How could it be like this? It can't be like this! Wang Ling screamed. She originally wanted to borrow the blue-haired swordsman's hand to kill Lin Xian. That way, she might be able to obtain some primal yang stones. However, things went beyond her expectations. Lin Xian was extremely powerful and killed the powerful blue-haired swordsman in the blink of an eye. Without the blue-haired swordsman, she could not block one of Lin Xian's moves. She was now filled with regret. Why did she provoke Lin Xian? Wang Ling knelt on the ground and quickly crawled toward Lin Xian. At this moment, her previous arrogance and elegance were all gone. Chapter 567. Spare me, spare me. I was wrong. Wang Ling begged. As long as you spare me, I will agree to anything. I can be your slave, your concubine. As long as you spare me. Wang Ling begged as if she had gone mad. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. With the red and black swords in his hands, he looked like the Azura god of death. Spare you? Impossible. A vicious and shameless woman like you is a scourge in this world. Lin Xian was determined. He would not spare Wang Lin. Seeing that there was no hope of survival, Wang Ling suddenly screamed. If you kill me, the Wang clan will not let you off. When that time comes, there will be no place for you in the world. However, before she could finish yelling, a pitch-black sword pierced her chest and took away all her life. I will kill you because you deserve to die. If the Wang clan does not know right from wrong and comes for revenge, I do not mind making the Wang clan disappear. Lin Xian's voice was cold, causing one's soul to tremble. No one doubted Lin Xian's words, because he had already created miracle after miracle. Wang Lin's eyes were wide open as he fell unwillingly. In the distance, Grandma Silverflower laughed bitterly and threw away the crutch in her hand. She knew that there was no chance of survival. A wrong decision was enough to take her life. As expected, Lin Xian flicked out a sword wave, killing her instantly. He was not a bloodthirsty person, but these people deserved to die. Then, he turned to look at the other three extreme spirit-detecting stage martial artists. Instantly, the hearts of the three experts beat wildly. Lin Xian's gaze made the hearts of the three extreme spirit-detecting stage martial artists beat wildly. Especially the one-armed old man, his heart trembled. Fortunately, he did not continue to attack, or else he would be the one lying on the ground now. Scram or die. Choose for yourselves. Lin Xian's voice was calm, but it could not hide his domineering aura. Hearing this, the three of them fell silent. Lin Xian's strength had probably exceeded the extreme spirit-detecting stage. This could be seen from how he killed the blue-haired swordsman in one move. However, the three of them were truly unwilling to leave just like that. After all, primordial yang stones were extremely precious. The three of us will join hands and capture this brat. When the time comes, we will divide the primordial yang stones equally, the gray-robed old man said in a deep voice. All right. The other two experts nodded in agreement. For now, this was the best solution. If the three ultimate contenders joined forces, their power would definitely be immense. The three of them believed that as long as they joined forces, they would definitely be able to take down Lin Xian. Having come to an agreement, the three of them made their move without any hesitation. 3 streaks of light shot towards Lin Xian like rainbows. Lin Xian stood in the air, his eyes cold as he looked at the 3 people who were charging towards him. Then, he held the Nirvana sword and quickly swung it in the air. Suddenly, the clouds in the sky rolled, and the projection of a giant sword appeared, filling the entire sky. That aura was too tyrannical, as though it was going to crush the 9 heavens. Moreover, there were black runes attached to that gigantic sword, bringing with it a sense of nirvanic extermination. Gale Lightning Sword, one sword cleaving mountains and rivers. Lin Xian was very decisive, as he directly used an earth-grade martial art. The Gale Lightning Sword was already very powerful, and now with the effect of the Nirvana Sword, it could be said to be even more powerful. The gigantic sword slashed down with a black sword aura, enveloping the 3 ultimate contenders of the spirit-detecting realm. Suddenly, the expressions of the 3 people below changed as their bodies trembled. What martial art is this? It's so terrifying. Could it be an earth-grade martial art? The 3 of them trembled as they dodged, turning into 3 streaks of light as they quickly escaped. The gigantic sword fell, sinking the ground, and terrifying cracks appeared. Countless sword auras spread in all directions, turning the entire desert into a sword aura world. It was abnormally dangerous. With just one strike, he defeated the joint attack of the 3 spirit-detecting realm experts. The 3 of them were terrified. Lin Xian was too powerful, and he was very decisive. Without any hesitation, he used an earth-grade martial art, a powerful martial art. This brat is definitely a genius martial artist from a top sect. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so powerful. Moreover, he has an earth-grade martial art. Looking at him, could he be a genius from the deity sword villa? The 3 of them were solemn, and didn't dare to attack again. However, the 3 of them were unwilling to leave, and could only wander in the distance. With a cold snort, Lin Xian sneered. He put away his sword and entered the cave, beginning to quickly collect high-grade primordial yang stones. He believed that the sword just now could definitely intimidate the 3 of them, and they definitely wouldn't dare to come rashly. Lin Xian moved quickly, specifically picking high-grade primordial yang stones. However, not long after, a terrifying pressure came from the distance again. This aura was very terrifying, as if the entire world was shaking. Supremacy. Lin Xian was surprised. He didn't expect a supremacy to appear in this barren land. A supremacy was a true powerhouse. Their strength far exceeded that of a spirit-detecting realm martial artist. A casual attack could destroy a spirit-detecting realm martial artist's body and soul. Although Lin Xian was powerful, he was still unable to fight against a supremacy. "Let's go," Lin Xian shouted. If a supremacy came, he wouldn't be able to resist at all. At that time, not only would he not be able to protect his primordial yang stones, he might even lose his life. The dark red divine dragon was also very decisive. It didn't dare to expose itself in front of a supremacy, now that it had lost its dragon essence. Moreover, the collection just now had also allowed it to obtain a lot of primordial yang stones. On the other hand, the snow-white little monkey was scratching its ears and cheeks, unwilling to give up. It waved its little claws and quickly patted the small bowl. The small bowl suddenly spun quickly, and then became bigger. In the end, it was the size of a house and quickly filled the entire cave. In an instant, the surrounding mountain rocks shattered, and the entire cave collapsed, revealing the primordial yang stone vein. The 3 peak spirit-detecting realm powerhouses outside also felt the supremacy's aura in the distance. Their first thought was to escape. Facing a supremacy, they couldn't resist even if they joined forces. However, before they could move, the cave in front of them suddenly exploded, revealing the primordial yang stone vein. What? A primordial yang stone vein? The 3 of them were shocked when they saw the scene inside. They knew that there was a large amount of primordial yang stones inside, but they didn't expect it to be a vein. This is absolutely too shocking. The 3 of them swallowed their saliva. The amount of primordial yang stones here was too shocking. It was definitely not something a powerhouse could swallow. Perhaps only a few super powerhouses could possess it. In the next moment, the scene in front of them made their eyes almost pop out. A huge broken net was floating, covering the primordial yang stone vein. Not only that, they saw Lin Xian use his sword Qi, and quickly slash towards the vein. Too crazy. These guys actually want to forcefully move the vein. Those powerhouses were stunned. They felt that their brains weren't enough. Haha, little guy, good job. The dark red divine dragon shouted excitedly. It didn't even dare to think about forcefully moving the primordial yang stone vein. It didn't expect the snow-white little monkey to be so bold. However, a cold snort suddenly came from the distance. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.